and welcome to episode 371 of the Awesome Comics Podcast, the place where the small press makes one hell of a big noise. I'm Vince Hunt, and joining me as always is the creator of the webcomic Vanguard, Dan Butcher.
Hello.
The chairman of the Betty Boo Karaoke Fan Club, Mr. Tony Esmond.
Doing the do, but not as much as Dan did last week. Got a bit hot under the collar last week, didn't it? Did you notice?
Yeah, it was,
Yeah. She got quite excited when she met you, my friend.
I have this effect on women, Tony.
Sorry?
You have that effect on me, Dan. And you also have that effect on this week's guest. Yes, we're joined by a friend of the show, host of the Mega City Book Club podcast, and now Anthology editor. It's Eamonn Clarke. Hello, sir.
Excelsior.
Welcome,
Excelsior.
That's what editors say, isn't it?
Yeah. Are you more on the sort of Stanley, or what about who else could you be? Who are you modelling the way that you deal with people? Is it more Jim Shooter or
the Pat Mills and the Mills bomb?
The Clark bomb.
David Bishop. So 20 years later, there'll be a documentary, and I'll say, "Yeah, I was a bit of an arsehole. Sorry."
That's what everyone likes to think that, don't they? 20 years later, they'll be able to sort of own up to it in a documentary, but the documentary never happens.
No, well,
I'd love to see, I think there is one on Shooter, isn't there? I think I've never seen it, but apparently there's one you can get on Shooter. I think they kickstarted it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to see it. Yeah.
Well, they did
Prebe or someone like that, did it?
They do mention it at the beginning of Jurassic Park, though, don't they?
Do they?
If you know the reference I'm talking about. Shooter!
Oh, right, okay.
Come on.
Jesus, Vince.
Dan watched the new one today, didn't you, Dan?
That is gold. Stop
Terrible.
taking my gold and spinning it into straw, you bastards. Welcome to the show, everyone.
Here to sit in your ears.
We are here for another fun one this week. Yes, Eamon's going to be here for the whole show. It's his punishment.
He did text me saying, "Can you just go easy on me today?" That's what he texted me this day.
Feeling fragile.
Showed weakness there.
Oh no.
But no, and we're going to be talking about all comics, great and small, as well as more info about the upcoming anthology, DUI number 2. How that came to be, Eamon stepping into the editor's shoes, and they were big shoes to fill.
Yeah.
How that's been.
Sarah Harris's. And do you know where you can get issue 1?
Go on, where?
Comic House. Oh shit.
Yeah.
Was that everyone's attempt to try and segue into a comic house?
I thought there was some left. I didn't understand.
See, this is why
I've saved one. I've got 2, but I've saved one in case I ever meet Joe McDonald.
What?
Oh right.
Oh right.
Fair
Okay.
play.
Yeah. But if you want to read DUI number 1, you can find that as well as a plethora of other comics on our lovely sponsors, Comic House's website. Yes, they're an indie comic marketplace that loves indie comics as much as we do, as much as you do, because that's probably why you listen to this show, if you like independent comics, and probably just hearing a bunch of men ranting about something. But Comic House, if you go to comichouse.com, there's a huge selection of titles on the database. It's being added to all the time. If you self-publish, you can list your book on there. It's another avenue to start selling the books and get them out to a whole new audience, as well as the Comic House app. Yes, it's brilliant. It's like Netflix for comics, basically. It's £3 a month. You get access to an enormous library of indie comics that's being added to all the time. What's on there at the moment, Dan?
Well, just checking out a new title on the app. It's called Submit or Die, Volume 1. Newspaper and magazine submissions by Cam Hayden. And the story synopsis goes, during the pandemic, I decided to start submitting cartoons to a bunch of newspapers and magazines. I'm making them for my patron site anyway. What's the worst thing that could happen? Getting a rejection? Getting ignored? Well, yes, in some cases that's what's happened. In other cases, I actually found some cool publications that are into taking my weird comics and putting them in front of people. Some of these cartoons appear in newspapers and then vanish forever. So I thought I'd collect them here. There you go. 29 pages of all the cartoons that Cam has put together, and it's got a very kind of undergroundy kind of feel. But I think that might.
I like the idea of that. I'll have a look at that. Yeah,
nice.
Yeah,
nice.
I missed that. I looked at the site the other day. I didn't see that one.
Yeah.
Is it? You say it's a new one, or?
Yeah, new to the app.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'll have a look.
Yes.
Today.
So, and there's loads of stuff being added to the app all the time, as well as work from past guests, probably future guests, and more in between from all over the world. So definitely go to comichouse.com, find out more, and get a 14-day free trial today. And thank you to the Comic House guys, as always, for sponsoring the show and putting up with these ads.
Brilliant ads.
They are brilliant. Super professional.
As a writer, I have to go back and check past issues of Vanguard on there.
That's an
that
easy way to
fucking
do
guy's
it.
name? And it goes, oh, there it is.
Is that an easier reference tool for you then? Than looking through
I can't go on the site. But
you must have lots of files, but surely you've got hard drives of
but then if you have to fire up the computer and then like open the document, it's easier just if I've got the tablet and I'm drawing on it or writing on it, I just open up the app and scan through to.
Yeah. Thing is, when you write a long-term comic like that, you must have been through about 4 laptops by now. You know, you transferring files and going to Dropbox.
Yeah, fuck me, I think I'm in my third or fourth computer now.
Yeah.
It's been worth it though. All those microchips dying for Vanguard have been worth it.
Well worth it.
It's hard to access those floppy disks now, isn't it? Yeah.
Floppy disks.
Yeah.
I always worry about the backwards compatibility of like some of the file formats you saved it in, because I think one day you open up and goes, well, nope, can't do that.
Yeah.
Oh fuck.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that in comics at the moment, isn't there?
Yeah. I wonder how many of your PSDs have been flattened when you didn't want them to be flattened down.
Well, there's one in this issue, which is really fucking grinding my gears. So I've got to go and sort that out at some point.
Oh dear.
Yeah. It's fun.
Anyway.
I don't know what that means.
There's a lot of people that probably have known that experience, that Photoshop experience of working on.
It's Photoshop, is it?
Yeah, Tony, get down with the kids, Tony. Come on.
No, I can't be bothered. Does it give you access to pornography? Because I'll download it then for sure.
What, Photoshop?
Yeah.
Yes.
It does. I'll get a copy.
Just go along with it.
I'll get a copy of that then, straight away. Oh, I've just bought it.
It's like a shop of photos. It's like a photographic shop.
That sounds brilliant.
You've segueing onto our guest. You've had to get your head around all this, haven't you, Eammonn?
Yeah,
I have. Yes, I had to get a bit better at Photoshop than I was previously. I wasn't very good previously. I had to buy the full version and get to grips with all the manipulating all various people's artwork and stuff. It's been a sort of learning experience for me.
Bloody hell.
Fortunately, I had some expert help and advisors. I also had Tony. And
I think you referred to them as design monkeys, I believe is the phrase you used. Dan was extremely helpful. And for a couple of weeks, I sort of ran him ragged with all these changes I kept making to the sort of back matter. So thank you, Dan. It was very helpful. But I mean, I'll agree with Dan on that. I'll say, Dan. I know you said that again to me yesterday that you run Dan ragged, but I think he's used to that with various clients, and you were quite an easygoing client.
Oh yeah, God, yeah.
The only funny bit of it is you sent him a present, which was a book, and Dan's like, "Who sent me this? Who's got my address?"
I didn't know who sent it to me. It did have a gift note in it, but no kind of mention of who sent it. And I was like,
okay.
Might have been Tony.
Right.
Might have been Tony. And then when he said no, I was like, fuck. I don't know who it could be then.
And I'd forgotten that Eammonn had said, "Oh, I've sent Dan something," so I wasn't any help.
Yeah. I mean, I had to learn all the Photoshop stuff. What's it called, Dan? Insight is what you use.
InDesign.
InDesign. Yes. Yeah, that's still a little bit beyond me, but I did a lot of Photoshop work. Actually moving people's artwork around and sorting out the page designs was less fuss or less bother than I thought it was going to be. I thought I was going to be sort of sweating blood up about that, but actually some of doing the back matter and the covers was more, was trickier, and that's where I needed Dan's help and a bit of help from Rob Jones, who's done some of the lettering for the issue, and he was very helpful as well.
Well, I mean, it's all coming together to be a lovely, just another absolute home run of an issue. I mean, the second album's always the difficult one, isn't it, when the first one is so successful. But to our lovely listeners who are wherever or whenever you're listening to this, I think, Eammonn, it's best for you to take it away with what is DUI 2. I know listeners to this show, if you're regular listeners, you kind of know what it is, and we've talked about it in the past, but this might be someone's first show. And remember, any show is someone's first show. That's piggybacking off Stanley.
That's what Stan says.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So DUI, tell us more about it and what it is.
So Drawn Under the Influence, this is issue 2. It's an A4 charity anthology comic, and it goes back to Sarah Harris and you guys last year, because you guys started basically a bunch of drink and draw Zoom calls during lockdown, didn't you?
Yeah, I think it's like once a month or something, isn't it?
Run by the wonderful Tom Curry.
Yeah.
There you go, the 4th Beatle.
Yeah.
And actually there were 4 Beatles, weren't there? Oh, wow.
I'm Ringo, by the way, just in case anyone wanted to write in. Yeah.
Not even the best drummer in the
fourth best drummer. Got a lot of ladies, though, didn't he?
And yes, you got Barbara back there. Yeah. And it came up at one of the drink and draws then last year when you guys were talking basically about why there weren't any sort of small press anthology comics. And then I think Sarah had taken a drink or two. Is that right, Tony?
Yeah, I think she had a wig on, which I'm not allowed by law to call a sex wig.
No, not anymore. No. So Sarah Harris suggested, we should do one. And in fact, I'll edit it. She said she'd edit it. So last year, she edited the first issue of DUI. It came out last year and raised close to £1,000 for refuge.
I think it was pretty
Tony,
much
something like that.
I think she sort of declared 900 and something, and then some more came in, so around 1,000. I'm going to say, which is good.
And it was, it's a great anthology comic. There's loads of great creators in there. Jane McDonald actually makes an appearance in it, which I think is why Tony's hanging on to a copy for her.
One day.
Yeah. And the last time I was on this podcast, you probably remember, I was supposed to be going off to university again to go and do a master's in comics and graphic novels at the University of East Anglia in Norwich. And then they cancelled the course. They pulled the plug on me. They only ran the course for 1 year. And of course, unfortunately, I think their first year was, the first year of COVID. And so I don't think they had a lot of interest. I was terribly excited to be accepted, and I suspect I might be the only one who actually applied. And there was when I told Tony about this, Tony made. I mean, the truth of the matter is, the reason I'm editing issue 2 is because Tony's got the pictures, basically.
Yeah,
he's got these. Yeah,
and the plasticine model.
Yeah, exactly. But Tony did say at one point, he did ask me what I was going to do with all this surplus comic energy. Yeah. And then, of course, what happened then is, as Vince said at the start of the show, I've got a podcast called Mega City Book Club. And Sarah Harris came on my podcast to talk about a Misty volume, one of that, that great, slightly obscure British comic that another Pat Mills creation, that she's a huge fan of. And while she was on my podcast, she was talking about editing DUI 1 and sort of, telling me about it. And I just got this idea. I thought, I know she doesn't want to do another one, but what if I volunteered to do another one? So basically, that's what happened. I spoke to Tony about it. Tony acted like a complete freak of nature and actually rang me up. He phoned me. Honestly,
that's right. What's happening to the world? And people are ringing. I did ring you, and I think whenever I ring you now, you go, "Hello." Yes. And it's like, what? What's happening? I didn't know my phone made this noise. And then I usually say, "Are you on the toilet?" That's how the conversation goes. But I rang you.
That's usually how it goes. Yes. And so Tony and I talked about it. Sarah and I talked about it, and basically that's it. Really, that's how I've ended up putting together issue 2. Having never done anything like this before, it's all completely new to me.
So I suppose the question is, have you been enjoying it, dude? Have you been enjoying doing it?
Yeah.
Oh, I loved it. Absolutely loved it.
Good.
There were moments when I thought, oh my God, what am I doing? And is this going to work? And there were moments when as any editor does. The
moments
truth
of frustration, maybe, or something.
Yeah, frustration. And as Tony knows, I'm a great big softie, and I don't like upsetting people. And I did have to upset a few people along the way. It's been great fun. It's been absolutely an enjoyable experience. It's all been new to me. We've got 2 printers' proofs, physical copies in our hands, or I have anyway.
You got home yesterday, because I saw you yesterday, didn't I? And you got home.
Yes.
Because I said, have you got it? And you went, no, it's not arrived yet. It's not arrived yet. And then literally you got home and it had arrived while you've been out, I think. Is that right?
Exactly. It turned up yesterday while I was standing for 2.5 hours in the midday sun, while Tony was round the corner in the pub drinking ginger beer. Non-alcoholic, of course. But yeah, it's been great fun. And so we've got a second charity anthology. Like I said before, it's an A4 book. It's got 60 pages. It's got 40 different creators have been involved with it in some way or other.
Wow, that's good.
This time we've chosen to do it for Cancer Research UK. So it's going to be £9 for a physical copy, and £3 of that is going to go to Cancer Research UK, and the rest of it is just basically to cover the costs of producing the book. And it will be available to order, hopefully, within the next week or two.
Good.
With it being a charity thing, this is something I think that some people need to bear in mind, because when they hear Anthology or accepting submissions or all of this stuff, you're no doubt just going to get inundated with lots of different stuff, or people have got something a story they've been thinking about doing for ages, or something that they've had on the boil, or this, that, and the other. But I think when it's a charity book, I think that should affect how you go into it, because me personally, I'd be thinking it would be quite important to me that it's a charity book. This isn't a get my work out there kind of thing. Do you know what I mean?
Agreed.
It's not a this isn't a personal marketing tool for me. This is, let's do something cool and we'll be able to make money, for charity from it. Now, how important was the charity angle for you, Eammonn, in terms of just thinking about the project as a whole, not in the way it affected your editing, but the fact that this was a charity book?
Well, I mean, it's always nice to do something that you feel like the whole community is doing something to help raise some money. Everybody's doing it basically for the love of comics, as you guys
everyone did it
know.
for free, didn't they?
Everybody does it for free. It's all doing it for the love of comics, and they're raising a bit of money for charity at the same time. It did. I mean, Tony and I basically were the editorial committee, and whenever I had a problem, I would WhatsApp Tony, and then immediately he would phone me on the toilet, and we'd have a discussion about it.
I think, to be fair, I think you were the kind of, what I felt it was, is you would say, right, I'm thinking about doing this, just let me know what you think. And so you kind of made the decision. But I don't think I ever got to the point where I disagreed. I think everything you said, and I said, nah, yeah, quite right too. Or you said, this is a bit strong, what do you think of this? And I think, yeah, that's not right. I don't think we ever disagreed. And I think you had your mind pretty much made up. You just needed sort of a little bit of confirmation from me, I suppose.
I mean, Tony's produced comics, and all you guys have, and he knew more of the nitty gritty about it, and he backed me up on stuff. I mean, there's two things. Firstly, was we said it at one of the drink and draws when we launched it. We said we're after new stuff.
Yeah.
We're not after the script that you've had rejected, by everybody else. And I don't think we were as oversubscribed as Sarah was last year. We were oversubscribed.
Yeah, I think with the Sarah one, I know she put it out on Twitter, which I think you might be getting onto in a second. We had a lot of people just come out of the woodwork and say, I'll do it. And you're thinking, you've never come to drink and draws. You're not really active in the community. We've never met you at a convention, for example. It's probably just chancing your luck to try and get in a comic, a bit of self-promotion almost, I think.
Yeah. I mean, the next morning, because I think if you remember, Tony, I said it at the drink and draw on the Friday evening, and I think the next day I was off to Cornwall for 2 weeks, and I think in the morning I'd had 4 scripts sent to me already.
Right.
It's like, blimey, that's quick, guys. Where were you keeping those? So, we were after new stuff. And then the second point about doing a charity anthology, which Tony's already alluded to, I think, is that some of the stuff, I think it's a teen plus rated comic.
Yeah.
The the thing we said on the Slack was it's a comic by adults for adults, but by adults who might want to show it to their mom. And we did get a couple of submissions that were a bit too much, weren't they, Tony? I think.
Yeah, the way I thought about it, I remember now when you sent them through to me was like, you've just been watching The Boys. Is kind of how I thought some of them come across a bit. Yeah. And if you join that up with the way we lark about in here, I think just didn't feel quite right for the anthology.
Yeah.
Maybe the anthology After Dark, it would have been better for or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, the blue edition, possibly. I mean, there was some.
I think that in some ways that's a little bit of the crutch of this show, because we have the laugh, we have these silly laughs and we tell like off-color jokes or something, or just self-deprecating humor, etc., etc.
Yeah,
but make no mistake, people. When we sit down to do a project, especially a project like this, it's treating it professionally. It's like this has to be appropriate.
Yeah,
and if someone sort of goes, "Oh, well, you just joke about on your show," that's this. This is a completely different thing.
Yeah. I think you can look at some of our. I mean, if you look at Hidden Lives, it's like that. The three of us worked on that together, didn't we?
Yeah,
and that's that. You would never put this and that together, would you? And I think if you're doing an anthology, like an annual anthology, as it looks like it's feeling like at the moment. We might hear more in a minute, but that's what it's got to be. It's got to be an anthology for charity, for whatever charity it's applying itself to. And let's not forget the first one was to Shelter, which is a domestic abuse charity. So you've got to be careful.
As well as the contact with the charity, because obviously you can't just sort of say, I'm doing this for charity, and they'll just get the money at the end. Have you had, talk to the charity themselves? Because obviously sometimes charities want stuff to be, they want people to raise money for them. But... if someone just turns
I'll be honest, I never have.
I'm going to go around just punching children for charity. I think that the charity might say, steady on.
Yeah.
Mind you, if you can Croydon, it's acceptable.
You kind of, you got to kind of have that in the back of your mind that would they want this? And
would they want it? It's kind of where I think about it. Yeah.
Do you ever find it weird when you kind of suddenly have to switch? Because we treat making the comic and editing the comic like seriously, but sometimes when it's like, oh fuck, this has got a bit heavy now, and you have to kind of bring in like real world job skills, if you know what I mean, to talk to people or communicate with people and say, look, this ain't right. And I've been through scenarios myself like that, and I always kind of, it's a bit of a kind of a splash in the face of cold water when you have to make that switch.
I think you've got to stand up and speak about it. I think having applied to anthologies in the past and just been ghosted by them, I think that's probably worse. I'd rather someone just said, I'm not going to take this. It's just not right for the issue, or we've got too much. Right. Tell me.
There's a way of responding, isn't it? Of saying that we liked it, but it's just not right for this. Good luck in the future, blah, blah.
Yeah, and we did a fair bit of that. I mean, as I say, we didn't have... I think Sarah had a load of, extra submissions last year. We did have more than we needed, and we did have to have some sort of careful, polite conversations with people and say, we don't think it's quite for us, but thank you. And Tony and I were in various WhatsApp and messaging groups, and we had a few sort of moments where we were being very trying to be very diplomatic and polite about stuff, and
you've heard it here, folks. You've heard it here first, folks. That was me.
Tony was polite and diplomatic, and of course I also had to edit people. Yes. And I was thinking about this recently because, of course, Alan Grant died, and there's that famous story that Alan Grant picked an Alan Moore Future Shock story off the Slush pilot 2000 AD. He was the one who identified him, and then basically wrote back to Alan Moore and said, "Yeah, we like this, but 30% less words." And I did feel like that sometimes. That saying to people, yeah, there's an awful lot of words here. I even cut down Tony's script a bit as well, and Tony was extremely good about it. Tony said,
"Well, you're the editor.
You can tell the truth, Eammonn. Just look. I know he's here, but don't be afraid. Don't be afraid."
No, honestly, I believe if you're the editor, you're the editor. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And I think it needs to be done more. I think Eammonn absolutely applied himself to each story and each panel and each sequence of panels. And I think you've got to do that as an editor. There's a lot of small press editors in apostrophes who don't do anything. They just go, yeah, that's lovely, you know. And I think you need to apply yourself to the strip more. Yeah, and he certainly did that, and I like that. I like having an editor's thoughts and opinions, and what he says goes, or she says goes. You know?
And also, like, you're in control of the final quality of the piece. Do you know
yeah,
what I mean?
you're the one who can see the wood for the trees. You know, it's like, yeah.
So. I mean, you know, we had, I mean, for instance, our friend Gary Hill. You know, he's got a 4-page story in DUI 2, and he was in DUI 1. Yeah. And he sent us, I think he sent us a couple of things, and we liked the 4-page story, but we, you know, I think Gary would be all right with us saying this. We said to him, you know, it needs less words. And also there's a bit here that needs to be shifted to the first page. And, you know, and it was fine. We talked through it, and it was no problem at all. Isn't it? Yeah, exactly. And so I didn't expect I would be having to do quite so much of that. But, you know, as Tony says, when you're the editor, you just have to work through some of the stuff with people. And it was fine. Everybody involved. And like I say, there's 40 of us, I think 40 creators all together on the credits page. Everybody involved was really good about it. You know, if we made suggestions and alterations, I don't think anybody came back to us and said, just no, did they, Tony? Everybody said,
no, I don't think so.
We'll look at that again.
Yeah. I mean, I actually see an editor as a creative. I know we had this conversation, 3 or 4 years ago with Shelley Bond, didn't we? I actually see, and I know Martin would agree with this when he worked with her, Martin Simmons, is she's a part of the creative team. You know, and I think an editor should be part of the creative team. It's not like a sausage factory like it appears to be at some major companies at the moment. You've got to have those meetings about form and craft and story arcs and stuff.
Understand the book, like if something came out and said, "Hold on, that character wouldn't do this. Why is this character doing this?"
Yeah, or we're looking at, mate, can you shorten this to 4 pages? It feels like a much shorter story. Yeah, or, you know, this needs to be. You know, there's all this sort of thing that can be discussed, and that's part of the creation of it. Yeah,
collaborating to kind of get the best out of it. You want to use everyone's sort of respective talents. I feel like it can all go wrong if you start getting your ego a bit too kind of involved in it.
And I think with a charity project, I think there is that different dynamic because they're not getting paid, I suppose. What do you think, Eammonn? It almost changes the relationship a bit, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I in a way, I can't speak to that because I've never been involved in a project where people have been paid for their submissions. This is my first time. But, you know, I think the fact that it was a charity project, I think the fact that it was from a community that's, you know, been together, brought together through this podcast and through the Drink and Draws. Yeah. And the fact that it's a project that is just about the love of creating comics. I think everybody, you know, responded on that basis and said, well, I'm going to try and do whatever it takes to make my 1 page, 2 page, 3, 4 or 5 pages as good as they can possibly be. And, you know, that's what we got from people. All those changes we suggested were all, I think, basically said, yeah, we'll see what we can do. And people,
fantastic.
That's good.
You know, where we said, actually, we like this, but could you cut it down a page because we're pressed for space? And pretty much everybody we asked, we didn't ask too many people that, but when we asked, they said yes. I think I can do it, and you know that's what happened. So so there it is. We got, you know, as I say, we've got loads of lovely people involved. They've all been fantastic. Their work is great, which I hope everybody will see in a few weeks' time. And
I think as well, mate,
terrifically exciting.
Yeah, it is. And I think just to stroll back a bit there is, as a student of many comics things, but amongst them is 2000 AD, I think that does put you at a good stance for it. And I know Sarah's a fan of sort of British comics and stuff like that from Volume 1, is having that ability to tell a short story. You know, either one, I mean, they have done 1 page strips in 2000 AD, haven't they? But, you know, having that sort of short in and out story structure like you get in a Future Shock and stuff, and understanding the way the dynamic and the way that works, I think it's important as well. And that's something obviously you're going to know from reading all these comics over the years, you know, and looking at them in detail, you know.
Yeah, well, I mean, like yourself, my first love was British comics, and British comics, all anthologies, they're all short, you know, 3, 4, 5 pages, and you've got to have a cliffhanger or a shock on the last page. And we had that sort of feel to it, you know, that there was a couple of, I mean, we did get a couple of Future Shock books submitted to us. People had obviously been through the Future Shock route with 2000 AD. I think it's a good skill. It's why 2000 AD always used the Future Shock as the sort of training slopes, isn't it?
Yeah.
They always say, and at Thought Bubble this year, they'll hopefully be back doing that again with the writers and the artists saying, give us your pitch or give us your art submissions for this story. Because it's real, you've got to sort of be very sort of precise, and
there's a particular rhythm to it, isn't there? There really is.
I think that's what it is. It's finding that rhythm and being able to deliver something in a short number of pages, because we did say the maximum was 5 pages for any one strip, and actually there is only one 5-page strip in the comic. Everything else is 4 pages or below.
Okay.
And we managed to squeeze in as much as we can, and it's gone up. I think we're 60 pages. I think it was 56 last time, so we're 60 pages this time. And there you go.
Did you want to tease anything? Did you want to tease anything that's in it at all, just to wet people's lips for the upcoming release?
Well, let's just pick out a few bits. Pete Dorey has done a 2-page strip, which is an idea of what would have happened if the TV show Arthur of the Britons had been in Looking magazine.
That's great as well. Yeah.
It is great. We've got both the Edwardsons. We got Damien and H on separate stories. H is working with some hack,
some degenerate
Tony something or other. Yeah. Although H main.
I say H is up, but it's just gone from strength to strength.
Yeah, there's the storytelling in those panels, and it wasn't an easy one. It was a point of view from someone at almost one person, and she's really pulled it off. I won't ruin it, but very good.
Yeah, I mean H's work is very spectacular, and it's been picked out by none other than Pat Mills himself in his review. There's some. Alan Henderson's in there, Gareth A. Hopkins. There's a lovely 2-page black and white strip by Johnny and Penny Cannon. Johnny Cannon, obviously, friend of the pod, and Penny is 6. I think
you're right. Yeah, he was laughing. I was chatting to him the other day, and he was saying he treats her like Howard Chaykin would treat one of his assistants. He just sort of shouts at her about the art. Yeah, that's a lovely little story. That I really did like that. Yeah.
Who else? Jason Garrett-Lee. There's a
that's
wonderful
lovely.
strip.
That's really good.
Yes. Yeah. There's a wonderful strip by Dave Livens at the back.
Dave's great. Yeah.
And then there's also, what was the other one I was going to mention? We mentioned Gary Hill, because I think, to go back to Gary for a moment, this is only his second one he's had published, I think. Is that right, Tony? So
I think you're right, man. Yeah, I think so. He's written a couple. I know he's talked to me about a couple, but I think this might be his second published. Yeah.
So that was great, and of course, there's also there's a John Ottaway and Paul Moore strip, which is entirely about
what a pair of bastards they are. No, to be fair, you did send that to me, and you sort of held your breath, but I'd seen it previously. I think it's brilliant. Yeah.
Okay. So that was one of the ones I had to clear with Tony.
Can't think why.
There's lots of great stuff in here. There's a very visually inventive strip called Woogle, which was really impressive, the way that sort of works. And of course, the other thing that you have to do as an editor, which I found out, is some of these stories demand a sort of page turn for a reveal.
Yes.
And then you've got to have, or at least I had, like a 4-dimensional spreadsheet of where all the pages were going to fit in the book, so that everybody could have a left to right page turn if they wanted one. Or no, I mean right to left, don't I? But a page turn for their reveal if they had a Future Shock ending. So that spreadsheet became very complicated for a while.
Yeah, running orders of anthologies is a really important thing. We talked about it recently, didn't we, with Hidden Lives? Is you've really got to pace what you've got and split up similar styles and similar themes, maybe. And it's a really important thing, I think.
Yeah. So that was extremely complicated and challenging. But it's lovely. I mean, we've got black and white strips. We've got mostly colour strips. We've got some absolutely beautiful artwork in here. And we've got
the
some
cover.
lovely
We mentioned the cover, yeah,
already. Well, yeah, there's a certain Keith Cumber, to give him his full title. The Lord Highcliffe has done the front cover for us, and it's a beautiful piece of work.
Yeah.
Again, picked out, mentioned Dispatches by Pat Mills. And then on the back, we've got Susie Gander doing one of her sort of Lara Croft type archaeologist characters, doing the back cover as well. So, yeah, I mean, it's lovely. The people just pulled out all the stops and did wonderful work for it. And we got very lucky with that sort of stuff, I think, Tony.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, Keith was great. Yeah. He was so excited because I know we had a chat about it and I said, I'll give him a shout. And he was like really excited. He just got super excited.
It's a great cover. It's absolutely lovely.
Yeah, it tells a story. Nice little story on there as well. Yeah.
It's a lovely cover. And he sent me quite a few ideas and thumbnails and we talked through it and, we backed and forth for a while. And then we got to this one. And it's just lovely piece of work. And I'll put the images up. Well, people who've been on the Slack have probably already seen the image and it's on the Facebook group. But I'll post this again and tweet it when the episode comes out tomorrow.
Blimey, look at him planning already.
Yeah.
He's already planned around this episode.
Now, do you want to talk about the next thing I'm going to eerily reply to you about? What do you think?
What about DUI 3?
Yes, there you go.
Yeah, well, I'm going to stay in the saddle for another one. I found this one exciting.
Nice.
So I'm going to do... I'm going to
well, I said to you outside of Gosh, I said, who's going to do the third one? If we do a third one, you went, me.
Yeah.
Bitten by the bug.
Totally bitten by the bug.
We did. I mean, we've already talked about it. It won't be until next year. This will be for 2023. Yep. Let's get DUI 2 out and sell it and everything. But yeah, I am planning that there will be a DUI 3 next year. And if people want to start thinking about their submissions and pitches and pitch me, you can have a long gestation period on this one because, I'm not going to rush into it. I'm going to concentrate now on selling this one.
Is that one of the learning? I mean, obviously you do have to concentrate on the selling of this one. Always think about the thing you're currently trying to sell before thinking about the next one. But have you already sort of got a lot of learnings from this first one that are going into the next one, the things like, right, here's the do's and don'ts that I learned the first time around?
Well, yes, I've got a list already. I mean, the interesting thing was one of the interesting things was there was that period when Tony and I had pretty much accepted everything, all 60 pages or however many, 56 pages of content. We'd accepted all of those. And then basically people had about 2 months to go off and do it and actually produce the strips. And I said to Tony, there's that period where I don't seem to be doing very much. I'm just now sitting around waiting for stuff to come in. Yeah. And actually, I now know what I should have been doing is working frantically on the contents pages and back matter because I shouldn't have left that until the stuff started coming in. I should have been working on that already and getting that ready. But we got to our deadline and most people managed to hit the deadline. I think, we had a couple of people who were a week or two late, but it wasn't a big deal because I was too busy frantically trying to put together the back matter. So I've learned that. I've got to be working on the sort of the extra features, as it were, or the outside of the book. While everybody else is working on their strips. I would say to people, if they're working on a strip, this is for writers and artists, think about your title logo. Don't leave the title logo until the end.
Okay.
Think about, if you've got a new strip, you've got a new story, think about who's going to design your title logo and where it's going to go on your first page. Because we had a couple at the end. We're like, well, have you got a title logo for this? And they go, no. Oh, okay. And
but had they put the space in for it?
there was space for them, and we managed to sort them out. And Rob Jones was helpful because he did, as you know, like Dan, he did some of the lettering. Dan did some of the lettering, and we had space to drop them in. But think about those in up front. I think would be, design your title logo. Who's going to do it? Where's it going to go?
I mean, some editors work in. Yeah, leave space. I mean, editors work in different ways, Eamon, and having watched you, some of what you've done on this one, how do you want it done? So we're going to go into, this one's going to come out. Hopefully, it'll be very successful, and we're going to go straight into the third one. So the way you work it, you wanted pitches. Do you then want samples of art, and then you want to be updated as it progresses? So say it's a 4-page story. Do you want to see page 1? Do you want to see page 2? How do you work as an editor? Because editors do it differently. Depending on what the project is sometimes. You don't just send people away to come back to you.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I think this time it was basically I sent everybody away and said, "Come back to me when it's finished." But I think next time what I'd learn from that would be to say, send me the first page as soon as you can. Particularly if we're going to have to find you a letterer, because I wanted to get those pages to the lecturers as quick as I could. Yeah. And I mean, as you know, Tony, we had some of the ones, it did work out that some of the ones that needed lettering was sort of like turned out to be some of the later submissions, and we could have done with them earlier. But yeah, I mean, what we'll be looking for DUI 3 is just like initially your pitches. If you're teamed up with an artist, if it's a writer or an artist, or if you're doing the whole thing yourself, obviously we'd like to see some thumbnails or some character sketches from the artist as part of the pitch. If you're an artist and you're looking to match up with a writer or vice versa, then just pitch us. And we did some matching up this time. It didn't, we had a couple of people who we didn't quite get the initial matches right, and then we managed to get them matched up, and that worked out okay. But
it was an interesting dance card, that wasn't it? Yeah, that was.
It was,
Did you say as an artist, I like drawing horses, or I hate drawing boats, or whatever? Would that be a welcome sort of if an artist was sort of saying I want to get involved?
Or maybe it's I like drawing action or sci-fi. I'm not really into drawing the more sort of personal stories. Maybe something like that. I think is definitely useful. I would say.
Yeah. And I mean, one of the artists did say that to me. They said, I don't do this sort of stuff. I do more this sort of wacky science fiction. And so we found them something else.
Cool.
But that's the sort of stuff we'll be looking for.
I know one of the experiences Sarah had when she did hers is she had people who, when the names, when it was announced, they literally, I think it was a writer contacted about 4 artists and asked to work with them. And I think it's fair to say we'll probably just have one input per person. So if you're a writer, you'll write one story. If you're an artist, you'll probably draw one story. Yeah. Is that a good thing to say, Eamon?
And you'd match them up.
Yeah. And I mean, I think
don't be greedy, I suppose.
Be fair. I think it'd be fair to say that we're only looking at, apart from obviously the letterers, but we're only looking at one submission per person. And we would try, if possible, to give first dibs to people who are part of the community but haven't been in it yet. If there's people who wanted to submit this time, or who we had to sort of say no to this time, when they, we'll certainly look at their pitches, trying to give them preference if we can.
I suppose you're stuck in, basically. Yeah, you're stuck in that thing that I refer to as the thought bubble problem. Is where you invite someone one year and have a great time with them. Do you invite them every year following? It's almost that, isn't it? There's a meritocracy element to it as well, I'm going to say, Eamon, is there? To a certain extent, or how it fits in the book,
Yeah, I mean, we're looking for the good stuff. We're looking for the stuff that fits with sort of general idea of a community anthology, a charity anthology. We'll probably, for DUI 3, I'm thinking we'll choose a new charity. We'll go for a third charity, but we might crowdsource that and let the creators and the community choose this time.
I think that's a nice idea as well, to have different charities for each one. I think that's do as much good as we can on a lot of different levels.
And we're drawn by what people suffer from, and
Yeah.
people, beloved members of the, the group and everything, and the charity is right for that as well. Sometimes I think,
I mean, if you did crowdfunding on the next one, so you put it on Kickstarter or Indiegogo or whatever, you'd essentially have 40 people like talking about it and promoting it, because that's the number of creators on the book and pushing it. And I don't know how you're going to take the third one, but I reckon that could do well if you
that's actually a thought, Eamon. We haven't talked about that, have we? I know it's totally, you're the editor, but it's not a bad thought. As a publicity vehicle more than anything.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just to get it into other like new readers' hands.
You can always have a low number because we know we're gonna fund it anyway.
Well, it's also in the way that lots of creators that we know use Kickstarter, not
pre-sale.
It's pre-ordering. Rather than like, this will help get the book made. We're going to get the book made, but let's just get some more eyes on it. I guess that's a good way.
Just get into more people's hands.
Yeah,
and then that makes more money for the charity.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very interesting. We will. Yeah.
And there's also that first pledge level on Kickstarter is donate here and you won't get anything, which is a useful one to have for a charity project.
Yeah,
I'm not sure how that stands with a charity. It's interesting.
Yeah, because
whether they would allow they'd waive their fees or something. I don't know. I don't know how it works at Kickstarter.
Yeah.
I fucking hate that first level.
Yeah, I do as well.
Give me a pat on the back. I'll wave to you from afar and you won't see it.
Tickle my balls.
Just give me £5. Just give me £5. What, £5? I don't even feed myself for £5. Anyway,
now here's an important question. I've got an important question, Eamon. I know every time I say this to you, you go no, like this. This is the
here we go.
You have to write something for Volume 3.
No, I don't think so, Tony. Honestly, I don't think the editor. I don't think the editor should put something of their own in. I'm with the Alan Mackenzie sort of 2000.
Can we have a letters page where you reply to them? Then can we have a little bit of a Tharg input from you in some way?
We
do you know what I mean?
We could do the made up letters. Yeah, we could do the You could send in some of your reminiscences and experiences, Tony. I was on this.
That'd be lovely.
And
sat at the back for a longer ride.
I mean, the only way I would write something for it is if we're desperately short of material. But I'm hoping that we won't be in that situation.
I can't see that happening.
Again, we will have. We'll have plenty of people wanting to do a short, 2, 3, 4, 5 pager.
I'm going to write a story about Eammonn. What should I call him? Eammonn Holmes. He looks a bit like you, and we're going to live draw. We're going to live draw you.
He doesn't.
He's a very hairy man.
I just have to set our lovely listeners straight.
It's an audio medium. It's fine. Visualize him. Yeah.
Visualize
but I might write a story about you, and then you can do some dialogue changes, or just throw in the bin.
Right.
He's gone quiet.
I mean, already as an editor, he knows exactly how to deal with you.
He knows that's not happening straight away. It just Eammonn, no. Yeah, I knew you'd say no to that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I will, going back to something we've talked about already. If we talk about your script for DUI 2, Tony.
Yeah.
Because you've got, obviously with Adam, you've got Dirty Basement out at the moment.
Yeah.
And you're able to write a different type of script for a different type of comic, basically. The script you wrote for Hidden Lives, and the script you've done, the story, the towel that you've done for DUI 2, I think is the sort of, it's a sort of personal sort of moment story rather than featuring, shall we say, somebody getting their,
being beaten to death, beaten to death with their own penis.
Well, I think I'm a great believer. I mean, I kind of like to write different stuff. Like I wrote kids comics for a while, didn't I? As well, me and you, we wrote, And I think that's important as a writer. You can't just write one thing, I suppose.
No. Yeah.
Which means apply yourself to a comics anthology that is to raise money for charity. You should be applying yourself to that. Yeah.
But to go back to the editor submitting stuff, I would like, and I know Sarah would like to. She didn't really have time to do anything for DUI 2, so I'm hoping that Sarah will pitch something for DUI 3.
Yeah,
it does mean if you don't edit number 4, you're going to have to do that. That's we want you contractually.
Yeah, you're setting yourself up there. If you ever stop editing it, then there's another one.
You have to do something.
let's get DUI
Legacy.
2 out.
There we go.
And then get
story
and then
about
get
Boney
set up for
Desmond. Here he
DUI
comes.
3.
Boney Desmond.
Boney Desmond. Okay, draw that. We want fan art of Boney Desmond.
I love that bloke.
Yeah.
Right.
What a geezer.
I would say the other thing is for people pitching for next time, it's a perfect bound A4. So you do have to think about the sort of, the spine doesn't lie flat. So if you're, for instance, I would say, although we've got away with it, I think, with Johnny Cannon's story, but I would say don't do double page spreads because they don't really work in a perfect bound book.
And also, A4 requires more panels per page. Don't forget that. It's not like an American comic we can get away with 3.
Yes, there's a lot more bloody stuff to play with, isn't there?
Yeah.
Space-wise.
And on the Slack group and on the Facebook page, you can find the templates that we used that Sarah created for DUI1, and we used all those. They were very helpful. I mean, I would say, shout out to Sarah. She was very helpful about
wasn't she?
Getting me all the files and everything I needed. Dan was extremely helpful. Rob Jones did the lettering and some of the design work for us.
Yeah.
Simon Russell was a very helpful guy as well. Rich at Comic Printing UK, he's been giving me lots of advice.
And you got a cracking introduction as well.
We got a forward from Vince himself, although, talking about deadlines, we did have the joke that Vince was writing the forward for DUI 3.
This is funny, Eamon, because that's the first time I've fucking heard about this.
Well, you didn't.
It don't fucking matter, mate. You marked your card.
Vince, you do it for 4.
I'll do you for 4. I tell you what, writing a foreword for a book is.
You got to have an angle to come in.
It's a tricky thing.
Yeah.
It's a tricky thing. I've never done anything like that before. So
I think you're good. I think the mixtape thing you talked about, I think that was a really lovely little opener.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. There's an easy way to do it for the first one because you just talk about the origins of it. It's easy.
Yeah.
For the second one, like you say, it's more
I was
difficult.
thinking, oh, I can't talk about that again. He's bloody stolen that one.
And it does mean that all 3 of you are in the book.
Yes, that's lovely, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Which means it's worth a lot more.
Half as much.
Yeah. There are signed copies from the ACP available, and then if you
want a proper copy,
if you want a proper copy, that's slightly more. Yeah.
How do you go about organising like the release of something like this, like scheduling it, figuring out where, when, and how?
Still sort of being formed at it, isn't it? We were just literally talking about some of the places we're going to sell it and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we're basically anybody who's going to a convention in the second half of this year, who's involved with the book, we're hoping we'll take 1 or 2 copies and put them on their tables if they've got tables. So like Tony, I know, is on a sort of convention tour. Alan Henderson's got a table at Thought Bubble, and we're hoping he'll have a couple there. I'll be at Nottingham Comic Con, hopefully have it there. Birmingham Ice, the one that's at Edgbaston Cricket Ground, I'll hopefully have it there.
Oh, so you're going to do that one, are you?
Yeah, and anybody who's going, anybody who's involved in the book who's going to be tabling anywhere, including BAM in Vince's backyard, we'll hope, let me know, and we'll give you a copy or 2 to have on the table, and hopefully be able to sell some copies that way.
We talked about a sort of hard release, like doing it as an event, but we decided it will just be, I think it'd just as well to just launch it online and see who buys it, in day one, which is obviously the biggest selling day normally.
Yeah, so I mean, the first sort of trip to the post office will be every creator gets their hard copy first off. The online store, which I've been tinkering with, but basically the big cartel, which is on the back of the book, duicomic.bigcartel.com. That will be up in the next week or 2 for the pre-orders. And you'll be able to buy it there.
I'm guessing you're going to do the digital and the physical release at the same time? You're not going to
digital and physical at the same time. It will be on the ACP Slack. It will be on the ACP Facebook group. We'll be, those of us who still tweet will be tweeting about it. So you'll find out when you can actually get hold and order yourself a copy. And like I say, you'll know that when you're buying a copy, £3 from every physical copy goes to the charity, and all the digital sales go to the charity. So, you're doing good works that way as well.
How does that work? Like with giving copies to people to sell. How do you sort of factor?
Well, I prefer to buy them, so it depends on who you're giving them to. Some people will just take them to sell, then return the money. But I think sales at conventions are so uncertain these days. I'm just going to buy a load, and then return the money as I sell them. I think
Tony's going to do it that way.
Yeah. Some people. Does that.
Yeah. Speak to me. I'll give you an email address in a moment, and we can sort something out if you're tabling anything in the second part this year.
Yeah. Just be realistic in the amount you think you're going to sell, and you can. Eammonn was. I'm sure.
Yeah, it's only going to be 1 or 2 copies, isn't it?
Yeah. I think
professional.
We're used to these small press things where certainly the stuff I release, probably 50% of the sales are in day one. First 48 hours, I think, are sort of 50% of the sales. Just people hear about it, and then they buy it straight away. Generally,
yeah.
So we should be able to start with, first few days, how well it's doing and how many are going to be for different conventions as the clock ticks down.
Yeah.
There is always that initial gambit of like, how many should I get or not, and you never want to be caught short, but then you don't want boxes and boxes of the stuff.
Yeah, I think the nature of reprinting stuff these days. I use Mixum. Other people use CP UK, whatever it's called. I think you can get it turned around in a week with a reprint.
Oh God, yeah, so quick.
Yeah,
because you're doing low numbers, it gets done digitally, so it's like just gets banged out quick. Yeah.
I had to do it straight away with Hidden Lives, and it was 4 days later I had the new books. It's a bit like that.
Oh, brilliant.
And hopefully we'll be in that situation with this one that we'll want to reprint, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
What are you going to put as a price for the digital? Have you decided all?
I think I've just put £3, and you get just about £3, and it goes straight to the charity.
Yes, sure. I think. I was going to say $3.99, but I think £3 is good.
Is there still copies of issue 1 if people want to buy them?
Only digitally.
Digitally.
Only the digitally, yeah. And
I've got one. For
I was going to basically do it. Yeah, you got the digital, which on Comic House. DIY one's on Comic House, and it will also be up on the store here as well to get a digital copy if you want to do it that way.
Fantastic.
Cool. Big Cartel's really user friendly. I would say if I was you, get the app as well. That's brilliant, because every time you get a sale, your phone pings. You think, oh look, another sale. That's good.
So you can have 4.
Which will make.
So you can have 4 things on a free Big Cartel one. Is that right?
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, 4 items. Yeah. Yeah, and it will make a change that my phone is pinging with something other than Tony's WhatsApp messages, or him, or him actually phoning me like some freak. Yeah. We were deep into James Herriot vet country last week for some reason. I don't know why, but
Yeah, we talked about that yesterday, didn't we? You're a fan.
Yeah, a big fan. Yeah, of people having their arms at the back of a cow and Sunday.
Oh, that one. Yeah, you sent me that sex toy. Yeah.
Dear Lord.
Dear, where do we take this now, Dan?
That's what your neck of the woods, isn't it, Vince?
Just
it's in the country. He can see a field.
What the fuck has happened this week?
We'll just.
He lives nowhere near Yorkshire. I'd like to point that out. But yeah.
Tony and I sent it to a couple of and Sarah did as well, to a couple of comic people to get some pull quotes for the back cover. And we got some very complimentary reviews as well, didn't we, Tony?
Yeah. So, did you want to name them, dude? Or?
Well, I sent it to John Wagner, who gave us a nice little pull quote for the back. Sarah sent it to 11 O'Clock Comics, and they mentioned it in dispatches at the end of their last week's episode.
In Your Travels, they do at the end of the show, and it made the show this week.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. And we're hoping that they might do a full review when they've actually got a physical copy, because you're going to take some copies over to New York for them.
Yeah, bear in mind it earned an O'Closker last year.
No pressure
on their little awards. No pressure. Yeah. We're hoping for an Eisner this year. It's going to be fine.
John Freeman from Down the Tubes was very complimentary, and again, he's on the back cover. And then, of course, the great godfather of British comics, Pat Mills himself.
Yeah, who sent the loveliest,
and he was very complimentary
review. Yeah, he sent like a really long review, which you had to cut down for the back cover. But yeah, Sometimes you send these books out to people and they go, "Oh yeah, that looks nice. Oh yeah, lovely package of stories, with original content." You think, yeah, whatever, But it was almost like an essay, wasn't it? We got back,
Yeah, we put the full reviews on the Slack group, and I've also sent them to a couple of the creators who aren't on the Slack, but who were mentioned in dispatches by John Freeman and by Pat Mills. So
John was
that
great.
was really nice. Yeah,
John literally said to me, "When do you want it by?" Yeah, it was lovely.
Yeah.
Good. Future guest, by the way.
There you go. Good.
And pass.
So that's it, really, basically. Very exciting.
Yeah, you can't wait to see it.
So you've had the proof copies, and it's at the printers imminently. So
there's a couple of tiny things I want to just slightly move around, and I'm just talking to Rich at CP UK about that. And then basically it will be going to full print, and then the next thing that will happen is all the creators will be getting a message from me to ask him for postal addresses. Apart from Dan, because I know where he lives, and the drone is hovering overhead.
The webcam's open.
And that's what happened next. And I'll be sending out. Hopefully, it won't be too long before the creators actually get a physical copy in their hands. And then the digital store will be up as well, and it'll all be happening. And very exciting.
But don't also forget this is for cancer. Was it Cancer Research, isn't it? UK.
Cancer Research UK. Yeah.
Now, you can buy a copy and you can donate at the same time, but you can just donate. So, for example, I always pay people I work with. It's just this little rule I have, and I work with Helena, and Helena said, "No, donate my fees." So I donated the fees to the charity. So you can just donate as well. Don't forget that. I'm going to say if you do, and it's something to do with the community in DUI too, then let us know and we can sort of mark it up, and it'll be on the meter for how much we've raised for it. But you can just donate as well.
We've already got because we've got a little spreadsheet for the donations. We've already got, I think, over £150 of donations already. For Cancer Research UK. I mean, there was you didn't go to Qvention, Vince, but there was something weird going on at Qvention. Money changed hands between Cliff and Tony, and that ended up being a donation. So
we had I don't know
what it was.
It was just a bet. I betted him that Neil Gaiman used to be a Scientologist, and he wouldn't have it. And then Cliff's daughter looked it up. He was, so he gave me a tenner there and then, which got handed over.
It was as simple as that.
For you. Yeah.
And there we are. There we were thinking it was something to do with writing on the bathroom walls in that pub.
Controlled substances. Camagra. What was that thing we were looking at yesterday? Camagra, wasn't it?
Camagra, yes. So yesterday, we were outside Gosh Comics in central London in Soho yesterday because there was a big signing with John Wagner, Brian Bolland, and Mick McMahon, big 2000 AD signing. So I was standing in the sun for 2.5 hours baking, waiting for this, queuing for the signing.
Wow.
Tony went for a quiet drink, but he did come and join us for some of it. And of course, Gosh Comics is right on the edge of
Dirty Soho.
The old Soho, Dirty Soho, which is now mostly cleaned up Soho.
Yeah.
But there is one shop directly opposite Gosh Comics which advertises a range of supportive herbal remedies, one of which is called Camagra.
Yeah.
So we were speculating.
Did it work in the end? Did you try it? Or?
So far. I mean, I'm waiting for it to wear off, but
get some ice out of the freezer. Stick a couple of pizzas either side of it. That'll work. It's fine.
Yeah, it's been 12 hours. Yeah,
cooked or frozen.
Don't look up the word priapism. Okay.
Oh God. The more
He's
you know.
medically trained.
It's all right, Vince. It's a medical term.
Yeah. Might explain a few things, Vince.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Right. I don't know how I feel about this week's show.
Well, just remember, wonderful
today.
Creators. Well done. Sarah Harris, who kickstarted this whole thing, started it off. Thank you to Sarah and all the wonderful creators who've been so sort of helpful and supportive of this novice editor, as we've hopefully nearly there. We're actually, getting the book into people's hands.
But this was just practice for next time you're going to properly go hardcore on people's asses and their comics next time I'm here. Yeah,
Where's my pages, Esmond?
Yeah, it's going to be a bit of that, yeah.
Get me pictures of Spider-Man.
Yeah, just screw it up and throw it in their faces when they bring it in. That sort of thing.
Just keep posting that GIF from Miracle on 34th Street. With one of the animals, with a whip.
Good. So you're off and running, guys. Number 3's on its way.
So
hopefully,
yeah.
Where can people find you to find out more? Where can they add you now? To find out more.
So, duicomic.bigcartel.com will go live in the next week or two, and I'll put it on all the channels. If you're interested in DUI 3 or even in finding out more about DUI 2, we've now got a new email address. I've changed it. I've had to set up. I thought I'd set up a new email address because I was using the podcast email address and it was getting confusing.
Right.
So it will be duicomic3@gmail.com. So that's duicomic, the number 3@gmail.com. Easy as that. And that's a new address for the next issue or for any queries about this issue.
Real.
And that's it. And Tony and I will say nice things about you, in our editorial meetings.
They're not really meetings. You just sort of you text me, or you just turn up outside Gosh, find me, and show me something on your phone and go, well.
Yes, I did that as well. Yeah, we did that as well. I said that reading glasses on, you have to look at this, and and then, as I say, like some sort of freak of nature, Tony will actually ring me up, what are you doing?
I'm so old school. I want to get a proper phone on my desk at work so I can pick it up and speak to people.
Right.
What
the bat phone.
Cool, aren't they?
Cool. When was the last time anyone did that?
I know. I'm bringing it back.
Oh, God.
You hang up first. Remember those days, Vince? You remember those days?
Sitting on the stairs, in the hall.
Yeah, classic.
No, you hang up. No, you go.
No, you hang up. That's how
Can I speak to your daughter, please, sir? Like that when you ring up.
That's how we finish every week when we're recording the show.
No, the screen just goes blank. I'm still sitting there with expectation on my face.
Until the next week.
Gone.
I can only imagine the horrors of what teenagers send each other through.
Oh,
God.
Pretty similar to what you send us on the WhatsApp.
Yeah.
It's been a bit of a butcher day for the WhatsApp today, isn't it?
But then it's the country's in a sorry state as far as I'm concerned. If they're sending the shit I'm sending.
You send me pretend porn. It looks good. Oh, it's not even porn.
Yeah, I like to kind of...
Yeah, tease me.
Tease.
Like Chakademus and Pliers. Oh. Cheese me.
Cheese you. Oh, my word.
Yeah.
I'm never going to listen to that song the same way again.
You listen to it all the time. Imagine you bogling about your house.
I do. That's my answer sort of message. That's my ringtone.
Cheese me,
baby. Until I lose control, like I do every week of this show.
But today's pod. We've been mean to Vince, and
we bullied him remorselessly.
It's all right. I've made a note of it.
If you feel sorry for Vince, and you can ring him on 07932. No,
it's funny. It's funny because that's not my number. Thank fuck. Anyway. Oh dear. But speaking of podcasts, Eammonn, how are things in the mega city neck of the woods?
Good one today, man. Listen to it on the way home today. Good.
Oh, right. Thank you, Tony. Yeah, we've done Thistlebone Book 2, which is a folk horror from 2000 AD. Tony did the first one on it last year. Mega City Book Club, the podcast about 2000 AD and British comics in general. As Tony knows, I've had a bit of a sort of glut of episodes, so I've been weekly over the summer.
You've gone weekly, haven't you, recently?
Yeah. I mean, there's going to be a couple more of those, and then it will drop back to 2 weekly. We're coming up to episode 200. Nice. I was recording an episode yesterday before the Gosh signing. I did a recording in London about an obscure comic from Battle Picture Weekly. That'll be coming up. The podcast the podcast about the galaxy's greatest comics still continues. You can find it at megacitybookclub.com. And I've also, like Pokemon, I've now collected the full set because I've had all 3 hosts of the ACP have been a guest on the Mega City Book Club. We've had Tony's been on a few times. Dan did Martial Law, and Vince, you did Death Wish, the British comic.
And Frankenstein.
And Bernie Wrightson's Frankenstein. Where will you find a comic that talks about the British, a podcast talks about the British comic Death Wish and Bernie Wrightson's Frankenstein in the same breath?
And Bernie Wrightson. Yeah, exactly.
That was
exactly.
a great episode. All the great episodes. I've
they've been good, man.
Regularly get schooled on stuff by listening to it and then realise how little I know on some stuff.
Yeah,
I was listening to your one about Bullet, I think, which was last week. And what struck me, and it's it's never occurred to me really, I haven't maybe just thought about it, is the fact that DC Thompson don't put out any archives. Incredible,
there's been a couple of Commando archives.
Right, yes.
I got emailed about
W.H. Smith and stuff,
Yeah, but DC Thompson have got this huge back catalogue, which for some reason they choose not to mine or package or resell to people. We were talking about a 1970s comic called Bullet, a rough, tough action comic.
Looks cracking. I've looked it up to get some on eBay.
Yeah. And it came out the same week as Pat Mills' notorious Action comic. But of course, Action comic was the one that caused all the fuss and controversy and was torn up on television by Frank Boff, who turned out to be entirely spotless.
Luckily a very moral and ethical person. Yeah, Frank and Nestor Boff. Yeah.
And Bullet, for some reason, although it did the same sort of stuff, the same sort of Dirty Harry, trouble on the streets of Britain comic, somehow managed to dodge all the media fuss. But anyway, so that was last week's episode.
And it's got Ian Kennedy art in it as well.
It's got lots of Ian Kennedy art. And of course, you can never, you can never get enough of Ian Kennedy.
Fucking buy that kind of media exposure nowadays, could we, with comics?
No.
I know. Yeah.
No.
But I'd love to buy collections of all that, man. And, Warlord was DC Thompson, wasn't it?
Warlord, exactly.
Well, that's Starblazer.
Starblazer as well. Yeah, another one.
In there, they put out one collection. It's got 2 stories in.
Yeah,
I don't know how many they went out to, but there's fucking loads.
What do you think that Grant Morrison wrote for Starblazer as well? There's all these people.
Yeah, there's some big names in there.
Definitely.
I mean,
so that's the sort of beat. Yeah.
So they've got this huge catalogue. I mean, why do you think DC Thompson just choose not?
They put out Brune's archives, don't they? Is the other one they do, I think. I've got a couple of hardback Brune's books.
Right. Yeah. There's usually a Christmas Brune.
That's it.
Book, isn't there? I think. Yeah.
There's an anniversary one, I think. Yeah.
It can't be a rights thing, surely, because presumably they'd have all that sewn up.
Maybe they just don't have clean enough copies, and it's too expensive to get it done. It's almost.
Yeah, it could be.
Maybe.
The original artwork's probably done a walk, and they've got this sort of bog paper, versions of it, maybe, or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Who
knows about these big publishers? They're all weird. You're always thinking,
exactly. I can never work out their strategies at all. I just don't.
No.
I work for one and I don't understand them.
Rebellion, who in 2000 AD and the IPC back catalogue, some of their decisions are still, strange at times. And they're well known for having slightly, their interactions with their fan base at times seem a bit odd to people like me.
Yes.
There you go.
I wanted a collection of Finn.
Yes.
Well, that's coming now, isn't it?
That is coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right, isn't it? Eammonn, it's about to come out, isn't it?
I believe there is one coming of that, and I think Pat Mills has been talking about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
That was held up for ages, but yeah.
Feel free to DM everyone when that comes out.
Okay, we'll be on that.
You've got stuff as well, like Escape Magazine and Deadline and all these sort of, all the Marvel UK stuff that came out, the weekly stuff. And I understand some of the Marvel UK stuff is the licenses for stuff isn't understood. I know Des said that. I can't remember whether he said it on the show or off mic. But he was saying if he's created it for Marvel UK, which was a separate company who owns, there's all this sort of mess going on, isn't there?
Yeah.
Maybe that's part of it.
What happened to all those characters like Motormouth and all that stuff?
Well, they've reappeared in Marvel about 10 years ago. They sort of brought them back for like a little.
Doesn't that reassert the copyright on it if they've?
Yeah, but there's different stuff than that. There's the early Marvel UK stuff where Des got some Captain Britain and Black Knight stuff done. He was saying it's not certain who holds the license for that stuff as well. And also you've got the Miracle Man, Marvel Man stuff, which was a mess for years, wasn't it? You know, I'm talking about the Bo Jeffrey saga with something at the moment, and all this sort of stuff. There's the stuff that comes out of that, and the original stuff that was done for Mighty World of Marvel and the Daredevils and stuff like that. There's, I can't imagine it's easy copyright wise.
Fuck me, that'd age you horribly trying to deal with that. Like,
yeah,
I can't imagine how you can start doing that. It's like a full-time job for an office full of people.
And a lot of creators have just got fucked off with it. You know, the biggest example of that being Alan Moore is just fuck this. You know what I mean? Yeah. Don't make a movie. It's too much pain in the arse. You know.
Yeah.
Like
John Freeman, who we've mentioned, has done quite a bit of work on his down the Tube site about who owns what in the sort of history of British comics, hasn't he? He's got a sort of resource there that you can go and have a look at for some of this stuff.
Yeah,
but some of the
there's that
some
story
of the
about
reprint on.
Sorry, is it Oddham's? They created it. They tried to create a universe of superheroes at one point, didn't they? And then someone bought it, and it turned out they didn't have the rights to sell it, and it's all like just madness, you know.
So complicated, yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Well.
Yeah, but the Mega City Book Club is a great resource for learning about British comics. I've learned loads of it. Yeah,
thank you. Well, it still keeps going, and there's another podcast, A Handful of Dust, which is my Sandman-based podcast.
Is that coming back? You were saying, is it?
It's coming back because obviously on Friday, Vince won't have noticed this because the Predator movie dropped on Friday. But on Friday, Netflix obviously started the Sandman TV series, so we're coming back to talk about the TV show. Although there might be some Predator talk as well, Vince.
Good.
I was talking to my son about Sandman. He said he's watched the first 5 or something, and he was saying it's really good. He really liked it, actually.
I really like it. Yeah, Jenny's got some more critique of it. That's my daughter.
Yeah.
So I do a podcast with my daughter occasionally as well. So that's coming back. A Handful of Dust.
I watched one of those. They have like the Variety, or when a new show comes out, and there was Neil Gaiman talking about the Sandman series, and I thought, okay, right, I clicked on it thinking, let's see how much he doesn't mention the comics. When a creator moves into movies and all of a sudden the comics don't exist anymore. I thought, let's see if this happens. And he was all about the comics all the time in that.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, and talking about like the artists and the creations and the comic books. He talked about like the characters from DC that obviously that they use, and it was fascinating stuff. And I was like, it made me want to watch it more as well, because I was like, yeah, fair play, man.
Do you know what it makes me think constantly is I wish we still had Vertigo.
Yeah.
That's what it makes me think about. Yeah. What a spawning ground of great ideas that was. And it's being like strip mined, isn't it, for TV series?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Vertigo, a lot of Vertigo series, I know this is a strange way to look at it, but it was almost like they were the best TV shows that weren't on TV, like in comic book form.
Yeah. Well, they weren't just pure ongoing, were they? No, they had a start and a finish and all that sort of thing. Yeah.
And they were wonderful, and the way that like the arcs were structured were like in this day and age, like a streaming TV show. Do you know what I mean? Like 8, 9 issues to an arc and stuff like that.
But not written for that reason, which made them all the better as well.
Exactly. Exactly. It was. It just. Yeah. What was the last?
I miss them so much, man.
What was the last Vertigo series that came out?
I don't know.
Oh, that's a good question.
Don't know.
Well, that's quite recent, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I think that days of strip mining TV shows to make Netflix, or those kind of things, coming to an end. I don't think that's kind of.
I mean that company may be on its arse anyway, Netflix. So.
Well, I think haven't Netflix just done a deal with Dark Horse?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's right.
But they end up just spending a lot of money, and then it's
BPRD series, baby. That's what we want.
Then they cancel it, and don't be surprised if it's like they put loads of money into the first season, and then like, nah, we're not going to do that. I know that's pessimistic, but that's the world of streaming we live in. They're just spending a lot of money on things that And because they're short attention spans, it seems like the executives have short attention spans as well. It's not around long enough for us to...
Well, here's an interesting TV and movie related question. If you can have sex with a woman, any woman who's been in a science fiction or TV series or movie, who would you have sex with?
Oh God, I was just about to say an answer then. I thought no.
Shall I give you my answer?
Here we go.
That Nova from Planet of the Apes. You know the one.
Linda Harrison.
Yeah, she doesn't talk, does she? A sexist would say.
Yes, you spoilt it.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, Tony, you got to be careful. There's only so many times you can say that joke before it just becomes something that you say.
Bit known for, yeah. This is talking about the personas we have on the show and how people take them.
Yeah.
There you go.
And I turn around and Tony's shoveling his way down.
Yeah.
I get bored in my head.
Yeah, Tony.
I told you before.
The thoughtful, generous, thought-provoking, sexist pig of the show.
That's a joke I like to tell at Nobrow.
Oh dear. Anyway, do we have any shout outs this week, gents?
Yeah.
Oh,
that's
shit,
nice.
I don't think I do.
I do. So one's a talking point, actually, so I'll save one of them to last. But my first one is Old Man Grey, a horror comic from Stephen Ingram. It's now live on Kickstarter. I backed it. I'm a long-term fan of Stephen's, and I subscribe to his Patreon. And he's an always thoughtful, always interesting creator. I think it's well worth looking. Old Man Grey on Kickstarter. I think it's got a couple of weeks left to go.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I remember this one.
Cool.
Yes.
After the Robot Apocalypse, that looks really good. This is a comic created by a guy called Keith Hopewell. Sarah, speaking of, how many times have we said Sarah House this week? She gets another shout. She put it my way. It's created by a comic fan who was a street artist who's always wanted to do comics, and now he's put it into a comic, and it's got that sort of energetic style that you get on the street art, you know. But it looks really good, and it's got a sort of sci-fi bent to it. And my last one is one we're going to talk about in a second, so I'll see what else anyone else has got.
I've got a shout out for the Coco Comic Con Lancaster 2022, 13th of August. 2 more Lancaster LA1 1QD. For
That's
more
this
details,
week.
visit
That's this week.
Coco Comics.
Of course it is, yeah.
It's Facebook at Coco Comics, Instagram Coco_Comics_Publishing, and Twitter at Coco Comics. Go check that one out.
Yeah, if you want, and also if you want to learn more, just check out our episode a couple of weeks ago with Matt Simmons.
Yes.
Yeah.
One more, The Penguin. What next? That's got 12 days to go. Of course, it's because it's Ali smashed his numbers on that one. But it's you need a perfect book to sit on the bog and read. That's the perfect one for you. And he doesn't mind me saying that because the last time he sent me a copy, he sent me some toilet paper along with it as well.
That is genius. That's actually genius. Also, I wonder how long it is before we get Penguin toilet paper. You know what I mean? Because the way he can have, like,
he's a branded man, isn't he?
Each sheet
got a
is a
t-shirt
different panel. Do you know what I mean?
It took me ages to realise that one sheet meant something else. And the other one is the Brewgooders Beer and Comics Podcast Anthology. They're a Facebook video podcast that have done a comic. So good lads, put their money where their mouth was, and they've done a comic. So they could do with a little bit of help. Although they did a 2-month numbers on that, so it's got 42 days to go. Currently at 41%. So get behind that, and I've backed that one as well.
I'm just pledging to that now.
Good man, because I've had you on the show. Yeah, you've been on the show.
Yes, I've been on the show.
Good stuff.
It's a total different beast when you're on video.
Yeah.
Let me tell you.
Yeah, it's a bit weird, isn't it? Yeah. What have you got any shout-outs, Eammonn?
I've certainly kickstarted or I backed Alan Henderson's latest Penguin, when I saw that. No, just shout out to all the 2000 AD people, all the fans who stood out in the sun yesterday at Gosh Comics, and shout out, I guess, to Gosh Comics for putting on the sign-in.
That was a massive turnout, wasn't it? What a turnout!
I think they were surprised at how big the turnout was. And we were talking about it afterwards in the pub. Yeah, all the way down the street. And we baked in the sun waiting for them. And we did talk about it afterwards as to whether, there's any way of, because I don't think many of us actually bought books from Gosh for that, did they? We'd all brought the stuff with us. But anyway, yeah. Shout out to all the 2000 AD peeps yesterday, standing in the sun. And then we had a bit of a meet up in the pub afterwards, Tony, and we had a scoop or two, as my family would say.
And you got a bit chatted up by the barmaid in there, I'd like to point out, Eamon.
Yeah, it's a only because you and I were at the bar and the barmaid was talking and you and I looked at each other because neither of us understood a word she said. I think there's a point when the piercings start to interfere with speech that you probably should stop, shouldn't you? Do you think?
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, and other things, obviously.
Such a pair of old men.
Old blokes.
I can already picture the scene as the theme tune from Last of the Summer Wine is piped.
I'm pushing Eamon down a hill in a bath. And,
no, you're in you're compo. You're in the bath, Tony. Come on.
Yeah, I am compo. I love that.
And Tony and I are that gif of blokes who think they put a flat cup on and they're thinking Peaky Blinders. But in actual fact, it's Last of the Summer Wine.
Surprise. The other thing I wanted to mention, did you have any V? Sorry, babes.
No. BAM. Sort of like is happening 22nd of October in Comedia in Bath. Stay tuned for more information over the next couple of weeks. Maybe a poster coming soon as well.
Good.
Nice.
Saucy. The other one I wanted to bring up is the announcement that Mark Miller made. This obviously friend of the show.
Yeah.
Not only is his new books are really good as well. I'm really enjoying his Magic Order and Prodigy and all that sort of thing. Really, really great stuff. And he's had a couple of big announcements this the last 2 weeks, including the fact he's got Pepe Larraz on one of his new books, who's MVP at Marvel at the moment. I've got to say, he's nicked him, isn't he? Good boy. But he's also taken some notice of the extreme pricing on comics at the moment. And he's made a point of this. For those who are on his mailer, you'll see he's pointedly gone for the fact that comics are overpriced. And as a man who's in the position to be able to do so, I know not everyone can, he's decided he's going to experiment by putting out the new series called Nightclub with Juanan and Ramirez for $1.99. So it'll be the usual size comic, usual length comic, but he's going to experiment for putting it out at $1.99. So good on him.
Yeah.
So I would say if you're in the position to get in a comic shop and buy it when it comes out, please buy it and show support for this attempt to try and bring comics down and thus sell more.
I would also say that, and it sounds like madness coming out of my lips probably to a lot of people that would be like, oh, but you need to make money, blah, blah, blah. $1.99 needs to be the standard, or a lot of titles are just going to die.
And more people will hopefully buy it. So the only thing we need to do is get people to realise that comics are that cheap.
Yeah.
Because everyone goes, I can't afford monthly comics. Well, this one you maybe can.
What's that kind of thing of like the readership slowly contracting? So you put the price up because there's less, and then more people leave, so you put the price up. That way leads to the end. Like you can't follow that strategy can you? It won't work. You're not bringing in new readers.
Yeah. And
if one person buys a comic, what are you going to charge them for? $1 million a comic. It just don't work.
And if the fact is like, well, it costs more to print comics, like paper stock and stuff, which I understand, but why have your digital prices also soared up?
Yeah, that's a good point.
They got nothing to do with paper, so.
This is ridiculous. I know we moaned about it before, but fucking buying a digital trade paperback for the same price as the physical one. What?
Oh.
Don't get that.
You know how I feel, girlfriend.
Yeah.
I've got it here that I recommend. Like, I know you bought this for me, Tony. Like, it's essentially the same price buying it on the Kindle.
Okay.
Don't understand it.
Yeah. It's cost me £1,000 for your birthday present.
Yeah.
The thing that we asked him about when we interviewed him, though, D, as well, which sort of just occurred to me mid-conversation, is we need to get comics out in front of people. Mark's tied in with, he's employed by Netflix now. It would just be lovely if there was just a little tab on Netflix where you could go and read the comics about the TV series they're running.
TV shows,
All Jupiter's Legacy's there, isn't it? Like,
there's so much there. That's Umbrella Academy, the Star Trek comics. There's all sorts of things, Yeah, it would be lovely, but, it's a pipe dream, isn't it? It's not going to make them any money.
They could quite easily, I know at Disney Plus, they've got, the extras for things. On top of it's almost like the DVD extras. Oh, I used to love DVD extras, but you like you say, that's the way to incorporate it. Like you have your series, and here's the extra things, like the behind the scenes documentaries, the comics. They're linked to this, that, and the other. That's the perfect way to sort of do it. But it's too much work, and they're too busy bringing.
I think
the
Doctor
reality
Strange
TV to us. Oh God.
I don't think the new Doctor Strange film had any extras that actually were about the comics.
No, I don't.
That's a shame.
Yeah,
it's a shame.
Would have been a nice be nice to see like a documentary about, especially when there's a
Steve Ditko or someone.
First film about the character, to have just an, I don't know, half-hour documentary about this is where the
you
comic
can get
came from.
10-15 minutes of a character history of kind of.
Yeah, I think the problem with Master of Kung Fu and things like that would be counterproductive because they go, that looks so much cooler than this shit.
Let's have all the Paul Kalasi artwork and it's
he's a spy in Hong Kong. No, he's not a Pokemon collector, whatever the fuck he is in that movie.
My son had the Fortnite game open and they put all the Marvel skins in there again, and it's got Shang-Chi in there. I was like, fucking Tony would hate this.
Yeah.
I think I sent him
self-harming that you said that.
I mean, Tony's always playing Fortnite anyway, so
I don't know what Fortnite is. What does it take 2 weeks to play it?
Yeah, it's 2 weeks.
Eamon, do you play video games?
No,
I don't understand them.
I don't. I know there is a Fortnite thing. I know there's a Pokemon Go. I don't do any of those. Can I mention a cheap digital comic, which is Saga, which is £1.27 a month digitally?
Oh wow!
From the start, you mean? Because I know it goes down a bit, isn't it? After a while.
Yeah, but the latest issue is £1.27 digitally.
Because
I get those digitally because I think I WhatsApped you about this, Tony, about how a Marvel or a DC is £3.19, I think, or something like that digitally a month, whereas Saga is £1.27. So again, one of the best comics out there at the moment is also one of the cheapest. But
that is good. Yeah,
I know we always moan about Comixology on Amazon. They still haven't sorted out subscriptions. It's, it's
I'm going to rant very shortly about
Oh,
that.
right. Okay. I'll leave you to it then.
We can get into it.
I'm very much enjoying apps though at the moment. So I use the Marvel and the DC app, and I read books I definitely wouldn't have bought. I've had a shuffle around on my subscription. So some of the books I usually buy physically, which are just ridiculously too expensive now, I'm going to be reading on the apps. But we do need an Image Comics app. That's what we need.
Right.
There's a Marvel and DC. We need an Image one. That would be lovely.
I basically bit the bullet and I wanted to buy the comic that I'm going to recommend.
Okay.
I thought, I'll just go Comixology. I've still got the app. I went to buy it, and I posted about this earlier on the social media, but I went to buy it, and then just a message came up: to remain in compliance with Google Play Store policies, you will no longer be able to buy new content in the app.
Yeah. It's been like that with my iPad for a while. I've got to go to the website, buy it, and then go back to the app.
It's horse shit.
I've been doing that. That happened to me 2 or 3 years ago, and it just put me off using it for a while.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to use the app. No, I had to have a very truncated way of first getting the comic and then figure out how to fucking read the thing. Anyway, speaking of which, it's time to recommend some lovely comics, you wonderful people. And as always, the guest goes first. Eamon, what would you like to recommend to our lovely listeners?
So I'm just going to do the one because I've gone on a bit. I have got the first 2 issues of Public Domain from Image Comics by Chip Zsdarsky. And I think he does the whole thing. He's written it, drawn it, lettered it. He does the whole thing. Oh, wow. And in the physical copies, there's one page of ad on the inside back cover, but the rest of it is all solid comic. And I think Tony and I were talking about this yesterday. I think this started as something called a Substack, which is a platform.
Yeah, I sign up to his free Substack, but there's a way you can pay for an extra bit, and I think you get comics that way. Yeah.
Right. So here's a platform that's sort of come waxed and waned before I've even figured out what it is. But anyway, so Public Domain is about a family. The dad is a comic book artist, and he was the artist on a famous comic book character who's called the Domain. He's a bit sort of Captain America-ish. And basically the plot is, I don't know if you're familiar with this one yet, but the idea is that it's become a multi-billion-dollar movie franchise. And of course, the artist isn't getting any of that money. But then the family discover a piece of paper that maybe suggests that actually the artist does own the character. So it's about creators' rights. Okay. It's very sort of it's very sort of Stanley and Jack Kirby, because the artist, the dad, he's still alive, and he's got his drawing table in the basement, which of course was very Jack Kirby. He had his, his drawing table,
that famous one,
yeah. And there's one of the interesting things about it. I mean, I quite liked it because I think Chip Zdarsky, I liked his crossover series. I'm trying to think what the other one is.
His Batman at the moment is really good.
Right,
I'm so chuffed with Batman at the moment. It's really good.
I've also jumped on his Daredevil because he's just started a new Daredevil, and I'm on that. But he's obviously interested in the whole issue, the history of creator rights. But one of the points they make is, and it made me sort of think a little bit about Jack Kirby, which is the two sons sort of never saw their father because the father was always in the basement at the drawing board. And we know that Jack Kirby, Tony and I have talked about this on his podcast, the other one that we can't mention, that, Jack Kirby had this incredible work ethic. He was always thinking, I've got to provide for the family. I've got to be drawing. And even when he started to develop hand and eye problems, it was always, I've got to be at the drawing board. And so these two sons, they're a little bit messed up because their dad was an absent dad because he was doing all this stuff. Anyway, so that's The Public Domain by Chip Zdarsky from Image Comics, and the first 2 issues are out now.
Oh, nice. I must get on that. Yeah, cool.
Nice. Who'd like to go next?
I got 2. Shall I book in?
Yeah.
Sure, okay.
First one is by a friend of the show. Well, it's actually by 2 people, both people we know. It's a comic it's Jetwash Trampoline, a comic about decisions.
Yeah.
It's a collaboration, but not perhaps in the way we think normally of as collaborations in the sort of the normal world. But it's by Gareth Hopkins and Sean Azzopardi. £4, good price, 20 pages, full colour. As is typical with Gareth, he twists what we think of as a regular day, everyday collaboration. And what he's done in this one is he's taken a load of discarded prints by Sean, who's an artist and a comic maker in his own right as well. And by using paint and coloured inks, he's drawn over the top of them. And adding to that, he's what he describes as smashed up text designed to flow and stutter and tangle the reader's experience. He's written little panels of words, which I'll talk about in a second. It's a bit more, as we all know, people who haven't listened to this before, Gareth does abstract art as comics, which is really interesting. Some of his comics don't have panel borders, some do. This one does. So it's split up by panel borders, and in it is the drawing over the top of things that have already been drawn. So there is there's almost a context to some of the shapes and not to some of the other ones. And as is common with Gareth, it's like I compare it occasionally to looking at a cloud and seeing a shape of a kangaroo in it or something. It's almost like your eye adjusts, it forms its own narrative by looking at something. Does that make sense to anyone? You almost create a shape, create perhaps a story as you're bouncing between panels, or there's a whirring and a movement, and there's something going on in these panels because of this sort of abstract nature. But what he does is he also uses short phrases, some of which I've written down because they made me laugh. Cryogenic barbarity in the middle of the street, headbutt the altruist, spinal tooth measured decay, unholy washcloth, eyeball rejected notion. So it's clever because in the same way that you're looking at these images that appear in the panels in sequences and you're trying to coherently in your mind is trying to make sense of it and trying to make shapes because it's in the form of a comic, which we're used to reading. You also do the same with this almost abstract use of language in it. And you begin to emote narratives through those phrases. So anyone who says spiral tooth measured decay, it has a strange structure to it where you begin to think about a spinal tooth, or a tooth on a spine. Your mind actually makes stories up with you when you're doing it. And it gives it this just extra dimension, which is unlike any other reading experience you're going to get in comics at the moment. I genuinely think that. The art is in color. He doesn't always work in color. He works in black and white, and he does have various ways of working in this abstraction that he does. But it's not strong slaps of bright color as previously. There's almost there's like a watercolor effect to some of the pages and stuff. It's a gentler sequence, and I think the dark edges of the panel borders make something to it as well, something different. I keep saying this about his stuff, and I find it very affecting when I read it. It impacts me. It has there's an emotional contact to it that, for something that is, in words and in art, something perhaps it shouldn't do. It does. It does manage to do that to me. And the subtitle, The Comic About Decisions, also twisted my melon. You think, why? What are these decisions? Why are these decisions? Are they artistic? Are they personal? There's a poetry to Gareth's work. I know you've said that before, Dan, haven't you?
Yes, definitely.
He was your writer of the year last year, wasn't he? I think.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Gareth's stuff.
Yeah, and I read this stuff and I think, I think this might be my favourite thing of his so far. It keeps becoming my favourite thing. But I think part of that is they're all very good. I just think he puts you in the moment. You concentrate, and a good comic, you remember the pages, don't you? You remember the images almost burned into your retina. You're taken out of your real life and into the comic world, and he does that with this in just a very different way. Sometimes also there's a slight lampooning and satire and twisted. He's saying something, a little wink occasionally with these phrases. The cover's great. It's just the word Jetwash Trampoline and the credits drawn over the top of a piece of what looks like classic artwork, portraiture that he's also drawn over the top of it. And it has there's almost like and the writing of Jetwash Trampoline is in bright pink. There's almost like a punk aesthetic to it. It's almost like a punk album cover, even.
It's a really striking cover, that one.
Yeah, I think it's one of his best ones, actually. Yeah, it's certainly you certainly wouldn't forget that one. Get mixed up with other ones or anything. So get on it. I put it on the EOC Slack when I was thinking about it the other day, and a lot of people said, "Well, this is the sort of thing I've really been looking for, for an American marketplace type thing." So you can go and get your copy at grthink, grthink.bigcartel.com. His website is grthink.com. You can find him on Twitter at grthink, and you can also find him on Patreon. You get a page a day out of it from the Sluice at the moment. He's coming out.
I'd really recommend following Gareth if you like his work, because it's kind of just it's there every day. It's brilliant.
Yeah, and along with the very reasonably priced comic, I got a piece of original art from him as well, which is brilliant. Yeah, excellent stuff. Yeah, so that's my first one. Jetwash Trampoline. What a title, eh? We were joking. I think he said next to you, didn't he?
Yes.
At Convention. And anyone who said anything sort of fairly random, I was going, write that down. We're going, write that down, Gareth. Another title for a comic. And he's a gent.
He's got a two-pager. He's got a 2-pager in DIY2, which is called Levitating Warbike. There you go.
Yeah, good stuff. There you go.
He just has the best names for things. It's just amazing.
Yeah. Good.
Shall I go for mine?
Yeah, go for it.
I got Judge Dredd Control, a collection of books from 2000, strips that ran in 2000 AD written by Rob Williams and art by Chris Weston. I really enjoyed this.
Both great Dredd creators, I think.
Yeah.
I think Rob Williams is a great Dredd writer. Yeah.
When I was reading it, I feel like this feels like Dredd canon. I know it all is, but this feels like it's worthy of being in there. Do you know what I mean? I really enjoyed it, and I'm gonna have to get back onto Dredd, because the whole idea of him aging as the comic goes along, and in this I think he's like in his 60s, but as they've sort of like treated him medically, he's kind of operating at a man like half his age. But obviously I've missed a lot of stories, and in one of these he's lost both of his eyes and he's got implants, and the person he goes up against hacks the implants and basically makes him blind in their clash. But I'll read the little blurb that comes with it. The psychopathic SJS Judge Pin murders officers that fall short of her standard, and Judge Dredd is in her sights in this collection of strange stories featuring flesh-eating clegs, hijacking ape gangs, and out-of-control war robots reprogrammed by insane accountants, in tales running from deadly serious to outrageously funny, all from the popular contemporary Dredd writer artist teams Rob Williams and Chris Weston. It's funny. It does one of the stories in it feels like it's written by like the Twitterati, that kind of mob. They work out in the accountants side of the justice department. They say, well, crime costs us this much money per day. What we're going to do is, if citizens don't commit any crime, we'll give them this money and it'll work out cheaper. And Dredd's like, oh yeah, I don't think this is going to work. And they're like, no, it'll be fine. And then obviously it goes absolutely fucking tits up, like as you know it would, because instantly people start robbing each other for their chits to say that they've not done anything wrong, And
right.
it just,
That's right. I remember this.
Yeah, another mini blog war kind of kicks off because of it, and it's really well done. Really, I really enjoyed it. I think I'm going to get more of them.
I mean, Weston does it about once a year. I'm going to say, Eamon, does he? Does a Dread story roughly? Yeah,
he does. Yeah, and it's fantastic. He is now. He's absolutely stunning artwork.
Yeah,
I'm not surprised it takes him that
and
long.
Him and Rob Williams are great.
Yeah,
great. The shots, like the crowd shots, it's like every one of those people is a person. Like he's drawn from the ground up. They're an individual, and it's just something to behold. It's really well done. So in the story, there's kind of been some occasionally like this huge apocalypse style event rolls up in the Dread title, and in this one, basically most of Mega City 1, the population have been wiped out, and it's sort of like zombie rage kind of virus event. Is that correct? That's what it's. Can't remember the name of it because I can't find the bloody.
It was
book.
after Day of Chaos. The Chaos Bug. Yeah, which was a whole thing. Another one of John Wagner's decimate the population of Mega City 1.
Yeah, of course. I actually think Dread's made up of like almost like tentpole stories, and then you get the sort of there's a lot of stories that happen in the wake of them, and then you get also like little filler stories between that. It's almost like it's a weird one because it's sometimes event driven, sometimes not. You know, it's an interesting one. I felt the same about that one. And what was the previous one? Was it Pin? I forget the name of it now.
Pin is the name of the judge, isn't it? Yeah, the SJS judge.
Yeah.
What was it? Is it Justice? The one before this? It did say somewhere. But
and what's the one is it Citadel? That was a good one. That was another one.
The Citadel was the one people were looking for yesterday from John Wagner, but that's Dan Cornwell, of course.
It's lovely
friend and mine on art. Yeah.
The SJS always kind of make me laugh, as in like that Mitchell and Webb sketch, like "Are we the baddies?"
Yeah.
They got skulls on their uniform, and then the reflection in their eyes is always SS. So it's kind of kind of.
Isn't that Dread though? Isn't that the kind of Dread? Isn't that? Are they lampooning the lampoon? Are they satiring the satire? It's almost a bit like that.
Yeah. Well, that's such a core tenet of the character in the series, isn't it? The satire. But it's amusing. I think we've said stuff about this before. Is the fact that when you had the fatties in the 80s, it's like fuck me.
Yeah,
that came to pass.
Yeah. In Croydon. What?
Yeah. They're all bombing around on the mobile scooters and. It's not saying if good or real.
Here we go.
I'm just saying.
I said the worst thing. Here we go.
I was saying like the 2000 AD saw that coming down the line, and even at times like that's never going to happen.
Yeah, Belly Wheel's about 5 years away, aren't they? Let's face it.
Here we are.
Yeah. Good. I can say that now. I weigh half what I used to.
I didn't make the most outrageous comment of the show.
The show's not over yet.
Still got time to go.
The age joke fucking was still the.
The what, sorry?
Don't bring it back,
Someone contacted me about that joke, said I've got one, and it was like, yeah, that's pretty fucking bad.
I bet it was Ottaway. No.
Won't name the person.
Okay. Right, what have you got, V?
My recommendation is the second issue of Daniel Warren Johnson's Do a Powerbomb.
Oh, there's a second one out.
Hey!
The second one is out.
Right.
There is more than two, Tony. I've seen on like Amazon. There's like because I remember when we first talked about this with issue 1.
I bought this in Heroes. This is the first issue. Yeah,
we thought it might be like just a couple of issues, but it is in fact going to be more. I'd imagine more like it's like a Murder Falcon. It's another like limited series. I don't want to say mini.
That you can go back to if you want, sort of thing. Yeah.
But for those that don't know, this is Daniel Warren Johnson doing kick-ass action comics and mixing them with one of his life's greatest passions, which is pro wrestling. Yes. The synopsis of this is Lona Steel Rose wants to be a pro wrestler, but she's living under the shadow of her mother, the best to ever do it. Everything changes when a wrestling-obsessed necromancer asks her to join the grandest pro wrestling tournament of all time, which is also the most dangerous. Well, it's classic. That's going to be, isn't it? It's the wrestler meets Dragon Ball Z in a tale where the competitors get more than they ever bargained for. Issue 2, that was the issue 1 synopsis, because issue 2 synopsis is quite short. I was like, oh, they didn't. It was just like one sentence. I was like, oh, okay then. It's just another home run for Warren Johnson. much like Murder Falcon. Murder Falcon was his love of kind of over-the-top, crazy, anthropomorphic manga, anime concepts mixed with heavy metal and also a deeply personal story. If that was him doing that, then this is that, but with pro wrestling and magic, rather, and lots of things like that. Because the necromancer sort of character in it, it's one of those classic. Here's the big tournament. I love those sort of things. It's like, you want to be part of a big tournament? You can bring this person back from the dead or something like that. One thing I loved is about this issue, the second issue, is the necromancers sort of talking about, I've created this tournament. Do you want to be part of it? Everyone's going to take part. And the main character's like, yeah, but who's winning it? What do you mean? Well, it's wrestling, isn't it? Yeah. Well, have you figured out who's going to be winning yet? He says, no one knows. It's a tournament. It's a tournament. This necromancer literally thinks that pro wrestling is real, so therefore he's made a death tournament, basically, just to see more wrestling. Because all of his knowledge has come from like television and stuff, and he's never got the context of it.
That's a metaphor for present times, isn't it?
Yeah. There's lots of different layers going on in the first issue, of course, but we're seeing more of the main character in issue 2. There's a shock twist at the end of issue 2 that is one of those. I thought I telegraphed it in my head. Some people may not, but I just thought it just kind of. I think this is the way the tale's going to go. But read both issues and let us know whether you've figured it out before the final page. But he knows how to drop a needle. He knows how to drop a moment. He also knows how to drop an elbow drop from the top turnbuckle, because the action is fucking awesome. Plus, in issue 2, there is a little more of the wrestler. That old, the broken old timer wrestler.
Oh, the movie.
Yeah, the wrestler of the movie. Yeah, where
that's a great movie,
where Mickey Rourke is like, he's past his best, and now he's doing like these death matches where they're smashing lights over each other and stuff. There's a character who, in the first issue, was, wrestling in front of thousands, and now in this issue they've gone to that. They're at that stage of their career, and you understand why, as the story tells it. This is one of my, go-to titles at the moment. And I love it. If you're a Warren Johnson completist, which I'm sure there's quite a lot of people who are these days, more and more, then definitely get on it. It's more of the same quality, and I love the layers he puts in with the action, and then just the real. I can tell he's going to, like Murder Falcon, he's going to break some hearts with this. He's going to melt your eyeballs with the action, and then break your heart with the story. That's what this man does to perfection. And also, he's just a super nice guy.
He is.
The only thing I'd say, and this is nothing to do with the comic, right? This is my purely my reading experience through Kindle and Comixology, right? Because I had such a faff of getting it, and it's going into my library. It's purely also it's because I don't spend ages going through my Kindle library and all of this stuff and looking through my books. I'm not used to that yet. And it was such a... And their comic reader, I read it on the desktop, their comic reader is not made for a desktop.
Okay.
Even the panel by panel, you've got 2 pages. It gives you the spread, and you can see both pages, but then it does panel by panel on one page, and then it flips to the next page and does panel by... It's hard to describe it, but it's really jarring. So the digital reading experience of this was not pleasant. I love the book, but it's now going to be one of those, I want to read the physical issue. I have to read the physical issue of this, or wait for the trade. I think it's probably going to be a wait for the trade, unless I'm in a comic book store and I'm like, right, okay, they've got all the issues, bam, 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 bam. I'm just going to pick them all up, because my go-to digital reading was just such a poor experience that I'm not going to get more like this. I'm going to try something, because obviously I've got Amazon Prime, and because you've got the Kindle Prime reading, that stuff that they're always trying to shoved down your throat. So whenever I went on Comixology, there's all those titles that are prime reading, and there's a lot of Scott Snyder stuff that's just been added to it. There's all of these titles, isn't there? And because it essentially works like a library, I can just read them for free. It's not for free because I'm still paying for Prime, but you know what I mean. It's that I'm gonna try reading some of those, just trying some new titles and seeing what's out there and seeing what that experience is like. I haven't used that experience for about 2 years because I went to read one and it says you need to return some books before you can read anything. At first, I thought, oh God, am I going to have an overdue fee? Are there going to be late fees? But there isn't, so you don't have to worry about that. But the Kindle library sort of works in a sense of like you have 10 slots. So I can read 10 comics and then I return them and then I can read another 10. Do you know what I mean? I can just line them up. So I've got some more titles. I won't talk about the titles that I've picked out at the moment, but I'll probably over the next couple of weeks I'll sort of read through and see how that experience is. But purely buying on a new issue of the week basis, I don't know why it happens to me every time. I say I'm not gonna buy it because it was a bad experience. Month goes by. Okay, I'll try it once more, and every time it burns me. I just need to.
Yeah. They've done. I can't see what they've done anything to it.
It's just not user intuitive. And if you want people to read comics, it needs to be, because I'm a simpleton.
Well, we've been over this before. They had a perfectly functional fucking site and just talking about it.
Yeah. But we've had those discussions. We've ranted about that. I love Do a Powerbomb. It's a fantastic title. So if I talk about issue 3 in the future, it may be because I've picked up the actual issue, from a comic book store. So we'll see. But that's a high recommendation, that series, from me.
Issue 1 is £1.27 on.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
The
classic Image sort of like
after a month. It seems to be.
Yeah. And I've just bought it, so there you go.
There you go.
Yeah. And the next issue will be out on the 17th of August.
Oh, good. That's good.
There you go.
But in terms of the subscriptions, and you were saying about this, Eamon, I'm looking at issue 3 now. I can pre-order this item, and this title will be auto-delivered into my Kindle, which I haven't used for 5 years. And I'll be charged on the 17th of August if I choose to. But there's nothing in terms of subscriptions, is there? There's nothing really. Do you have to do that per issue?
You have to do that every month for all the comics that you want to pick up digitally. You have to remember to go and do it. It's 6 months now since Amazon took it over completely. In June, they said they were going to fix all the various problems so that UK users could do subscriptions. And you all had the same experience. If I go on Amazon and I order a toothbrush, it tries to get me to set up a subscription for toothbrushes. But you cannot subscribe to a digital comic, which seems like it would be the easiest thing in the world. All the subscription.
Go on.
Sorry, carry on, Vince.
No, you go.
Well, I was going to say, all the subscription models that we subscribe to, Netflix, Amazon, Disney Plus, they all rely on a certain amount of, user inertia, that they've got our money every month. And it's astonishing that Amazon cannot figure this out for the UK market. Yeah. It's also astonishing that Amazon and Apple and Google cannot sort out the Dan thing, which is, you cannot buy through their app. Because that's a different company and we don't like them. It's nonsense in this day and age. They should be able to figure this out, and they should be able to figure out a subscription if they, if they want me to set up a subscription for Underpants but not for Nightwing or Saga.
Interesting thing about this is, like, for instance, if I wanted to essentially subscribe to this series, I need to click on the Do a Powerbomb page for the series, for the entire series, and it shows you a list of all the issues. It's interesting that it only goes up to issue 4, and earlier when I was looking through Amazon, it showed me a thumbnail of an issue 5, so I don't know why they haven't got all five on here. But I would need to go into, for instance, click on 3 and 4 now to pre-order both issues. Now, I'd have to, but like you say, you're not going to do that for every bloody title. That
No.
It's just, it's too much, man. I just don't understand.
I just love the way they sort of make it more and more increasingly difficult to buy their product. It's ideal, isn't it, for a business model? Yeah.
I will say though, and also, and I hate sort of looking at that sort of, this list of titles, because I've just seen some synopsis for 3 and 4, like a previews essentially. We're talking about those. I don't really want a synopsis of the issue because it might contain a spoiler.
Yeah,
and then just by scrolling down, I mean, I've just seen the most amazing name of a character that's going to appear in issue 3.
You just want those expanding boxes. That's all I think, because some people will go into it thinking, I might buy this, so they'll need an explanation. But if it's an expanding box, you don't have to press on it. So you don't I think that's the way they should be doing it. Yeah.
Get this, though, for issue 3. I mean, if you want to get back to the series, if you want to get hold of this series, I'm not going to spoil the names of the main characters, but they're going to be in their first round tournament matchup with the mighty Orangabang. Watch out for their finishing move. That's what the synopsis says. That's going to be a sexy issue.
Yeah. I'm imagining it now.
Yeah. Who doesn't love an Orangabang? No. Tony, what's your final...
Well, just to disturb us before we go, I did a sort of thoughtful comic and now a little bit of horror and a little bit of manga, actually. This is by a small niche manga publisher stroke translator based in Florida called Starfruit Books. It's called The Town of Pigs by Hideshi Hino. Has anyone heard of Hideshi Hino before?
No.
Quite a big creator in Japan. Fuck all you can buy here, sadly. Very little. I think virtually nothing available.
Yeah.
There's, I think, a couple are available on Kindle if you're lucky. The publisher's blurb reads as follows: one night under a blood red moon, that makes no sense, it's a black and white comic, glimmering with demonic beauty, a group of devilish creatures armed with axes and spears came riding into a quiet city. It's not a city, on horseback. One by one, they loaded the villagers, so these villagers who live in a city, I don't understand that, up into cages and carried them off without any explanation. I barely managed to escape alive. That gives you nothing, does it, really?
No.
Compared to what this comic is like. Now, I've just sent Eammonn some pictures of it as well, and I sent you guys some yesterday. And just the cover gives you more of a load of pigs in a sort of pen, and it's called Town of Pigs. And it is fucking disturbing. This will freak you out. It's also a horror story with an unhappy ending, which I think sometimes works for horror. There's a lot of horror films,
Definitely.
for example, that I've watched with an unhappy ending, which has haunted me. It stays with you, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And this is what this does. It's extremely unsettling, and I dare you to find something similar to it out there. The blurb from the publisher doesn't actually mention the thing about pigs in it, which I found really interesting. But what actually happens here is there's a set of demonic horsemen who, I know we were talking about this earlier, look like silhouettes of Frazetta's Death Dealer. The barbarian he drew, which is interesting. There's a comic about it at the moment, which is very good. And they turn in and they absolutely wipe out an entire village. They destroy it, flooring all the buildings. It's just rubble. And I actually think the creator is talking a little bit about Hiroshima in the same way that we got it, because the artwork isn't super dissimilar to Barefoot Gen, actually. And in similar to Barefoot Gen, this also follows a young male child who is the central character. And he's called Kenichi. And this kid, you feel the sort of white-hot fear in this kid as he hides in the local woods and latterly in the rubble of destroyed buildings as he's trying to escape these demonic warriors who've turned in. And he witnesses what happens to the whole town. So he's got a pair of binoculars and he hides in buildings and looks between the rubble at these people are being absolutely tortured and killed. And what's happened is a load of them are put into these massive cages and they're being fed slops, old fish skins and, all sorts of things. And they're being turned into pigs. And not even in an imaginary, in a literal way. And the people who refuse to be turned into pigs are tortured, and it's not like they're tortured, but they have their eyeballs pulled out and their scalps skinned back, and they're buried alive, and it is utterly nightmarish. It is just so unsettling. It's just so peculiar. The art has got a really heavy, hard, ink-shaped caricature line to it, and again, like we talked about earlier, the interiors have got a real punk rock feeling about them. They're just real underground comics feeling about them from Japan. Everything is torture and terror and shock, but it's all seen through these really strange eyes of this child who is drawn as every image of this child, he's got his gob open and he's just blind scared of what's going on. I had a look at Hideshi Himo because I found this utterly captivating. Just couldn't. It's one of those sort of things I couldn't look away as I read it. It's a bit like that. And it's interesting because his grandfather was Yakuza. And he was also a pig farmer. So, like, fucking hell, there's something that's mentally scarred this great there. Somewhere.
Yeah, God, yeah.
What's it Bricktop says in Snatch? Never trust a man with a pig farm.
Yeah.
As
greedy as a pig. Anyway.
yeah. And Hideshi Hino, he's famous in Japan, and there's been movies made of his stuff and all this sort of thing. But you go and find something here, I dare you. I mean, even this is sold out. If you want a copy, you'll get a copy through Gosh, and there's a couple of comic shops who've got it. But if you go to their website, they're desperately saying, look, stop writing to us. We're printing more. We're printing as many as we can. Because it's been a real hit for them. And if you look at, they're printing something. They put a tweet out yesterday saying, Occult Detective Club, Doll Cemetery. Fucking hell. By Hideshi Himo is due out in English in early 2023. So I'm going to definitely get that. But I suppose the only comparable book I would give it in an English language style is probably Charles Burns' Black Hole, but it's not quite as, it's more cartoony than that. There's it's a lot, it's strange in a different way. I mean, Black Hole is fucking weird, isn't it? But they both have that, a nightmare in paper. So you can imagine this is some just awful fever dream nightmare that Hideshi Hino has had, and he's put it onto paper. It's a one-off. It's not a continuing story. It's a single volume. I'm just looking to see how many pages it is. It's just under 200, so it's not like a super long manga. But I desperately need more of him. I'm absolutely addicted to this style. It's just incredible. You can go to Starfruit Books. As I say, they're a US-based manga publisher. You can find them at Starfruit Books on Twitter or starfruitbooks.com. You can find them online. If you're into, and I think this is one of those manga books. If you see it, get it, because you're not going to find it again. You know how we've talked about recently about how manga's just selling off the shelves, and you try and find the first volume of 20th Century Boys, you won't find it, And I think it's going to like this. So, The Town of Pigs, Hideshi Hino. What a book! Yeah, brilliant. There you go.
There you go. And speaking of Starfruit, thank you, Eammonn, for joining us this week.
There you go.
It's a pleasure. Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me. The ACP signal went up in the clouds, and I responded.
Yeah. And as always, you're an absolute legend. And remember to be on the lookout for DUI too. It's for a good cause, and it's good comics.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we're all about that. And we're all about all things comics. So if there's anything on this episode that you want to find out more about, or if there's anything you want us to shout about, whether it be other charity drives that you may be doing or other people may be doing in the name of comics, then please let us know. There's several different ways you can do it. You can email us awesomecomicspod@gmail.com. Follow us on social media. On Twitter, we are @TheAwesomePod. If you do the Book of Faces, go to facebook.com/awesomecomicspodcast. There's a community group on Facebook called Awesome Comics Talk, which is full of fantastic people, as is the Awesome Comics Podcast Slack group, with loads of different channels and all different types of conversations going on there. So please join us. Contact us to find out how to jump.
Also, there's a DUI2 channel on there as well, where you can talk about where you can sell the book and get copies of it and stuff like that. And I suspect once we get into the next few months rolling post the sale of this one, Eammonn will create a DUI3 channel on there.
There may well be, yes.
Yeah.
I hope so.
There you go.
So it's the place to be. As is the website awesomecomics.podbean.com. Thank you for listening if you listen to us there. We're also on other networks like Apple Podcasts, so please subscribe. Leave a review. Helps get the word out about the show and more people listening to it.
Yeah.
All the great good that is done for charity, etc. in the name of independent comics that we then slap our name on and try to make a quick buck. No, we don't. No. But in all seriousness, if you listen to us on Spotify, Amazon, Stitcher, Podnose, Podknife, what other networks are we on, Tony?
We're on pod Trevor Inchmail for PM.
Good reference.
Thank you.
And this has been a wonderful show. So, where can people find us online, etc., Tony?
Neverhidanything.com.
There you go, Dan.
You can find me on Twitter at Vanguard Comic, and you can read Vanguard at vanguardcomic.com.
And you can follow me on social media at Jester Diablo, where I'll be posting all kinds of nonsense. And you can probably picture the cats as well.
You almost sung that one.
Yeah. And where, again, can people find you, your show, and everything else, Eammonn?
Megacitybookclub.com or email me duicomic3 at gmail.com.
At gmail.com. Brilliant. So we're all going to go off, have a bit of a cuddle, have a Horlicks, and
slap ice around my balls.
For anyone that will get this reference, if anyone thinks that the ACP hang out together like Rainbow and all sleep in the same bed, yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. So, and
I'm in the middle.
Any dream.
Eammonn,
I'm the jam in the sandwich.
Eammonn, we've saved a space for you. So, come here, babe.
Cozy up.
Come on, cozy up. We're gonna have a cozy evening and read some comics wherever you are in the world. We hope you're happy, healthy.
I sleep nude.
Okay. And let's all go, guys.
It's like Bungle. Hard to tell if Tony's nude.
Hard to tell. I love this new throw you've got.
Silky smooth.
Yeah. But wherever you are in the world, we love you. Don't we, Dan?
Oh, yeah.
Amen. Come on, you love them, don't you?
We do. I love them. I love them all, the people who create such wonderful comics.
There you go. And Tony, do you love them?
Sorry, I drifted off there, babes. What did you say?
Do you know, one day I'll trick him into it. No, that's not the way to live your life. Anyway, we love you very much wherever you are in the world. Have a great week. Read loads of comics, make loads of comics, and no matter what you do, as always, well, actually, what should they do, guys?
Stay awesome.
Stay awesome.
Brilliant. Bye, everyone.
Perfectly timed.